Hope it's all working. All right, I think we're live. Is there audio? Make sure there's audio. What's up? All right, there's audio there. Let's test to make sure we got audio in here. Because last time we didn't have game audio. Let's go ahead and double check. I don't know if I hear any audio. Die, tree. There's a little bit of lag behind this.
Yeah.
Oh, we have game audio. I heard the turn set. Yep. Excellent. Okay, the technical issues are solved. The first challenge of streaming. Every week it's a different adventure with whether or not our equipment's going to work correctly. So we like to do a little mic check at the beginning.
Technical issues are solved.
All right, mute that. Okay, cool. All right, so good morning, everyone. My name is Ross Shabilsky. I am the founder of D20 Studios. We are an indie video game development studio based here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Today I have with me our lead artist animator, Peter.
What's up?
So we've been trying to get to a situation where we can work together a little bit more. He's been coming over once a week, and we've been having really great design discussions about our upcoming single player feature we're adding to Summoner's Fate.
Single player is a beast.
It's a beast. Yes.
It's like we have to design a whole new game.
Yes, it is. It is a whole new game. So we thought it'd be fun because we've had so much fun having these conversations and had lots of really great developments. And one of the things that we really strive for at our company is we consider ourselves to be a community-driven developer. And what that means to us is that we invite the community to participate and be involved directly in the design of the game. And we do that in several ways, from giving you guys a chance to provide your feedback on the art, decide which of various sketches or designs you like better. We have open design discussions on our Discord regularly. Everything from game design to the philosophy and ethics of business models to...
there's been some interesting ones going on right now with the legal stuff in Europe.
Oh yeah, loot boxes and how that plays into the game economy. All kinds of really exciting, awesome things. And we're always striving to do better, and we believe it's not something that can be done effectively in isolation. So we like to directly involve players, and we're really proud. A lot of the game's designs that have been sort of staple to our game have been directly inspired by player feedback
Lots
and
of great ideas.
Recommendations. I mean, I've got so our homepage. By the way, for those who are joining us for the first time, the game we're making is called Summoner's Fate. It is a deck building, turn-based strategy adventure game where you play as a god and decide the fate of hundreds of characters in the world. Get to go on adventures, recruit new team members, get new spells, build a deck as you go. And it's all about winning in the most creative and weird ways possible.
Yes.
So we've got like this druid up here you can see on the banner that has got this little squirrel on her. And this was all inspired by one of our players from our first game that joined us in some of our early game design discussions and said, I really want a deck where you could summon a bunch of rodents and he had this image like Princess Bride, like the rodents of unusual size. And huge fan of that movie, and so we sort of took that idea and ran with it and worked with them and various other members of the community to evolve that into what eventually became a squirrel hurling druid. She throws squirrels, and then when they hit the enemy, they fall to the ground. You can use cards to mutate them into the Incredible Hulk Squirrel, breed an army of super mutant Hulk Squirrels, or charge them to make them into Squirrel Suicide Bombers. So just crazy, weird stuff like that. Yeah, so we're very excited. Our game is available now. It's in pre-release. So one of the cool things about that is it's not officially launched yet, but the game is actually very far along in terms of its mechanics and design. You can get that on our website here. It's available on all the platforms we target, which includes Windows, Mac, Android, iOS. There's over 200 of the 400 cards we have planned for worldwide launch implemented so far. You can get a feel for it's got an onboarding experience, and then you can play battles against the AI as well as other players. And so, yeah, but check out our website here. We've been to lots of events. Actually, speaking of events, I should probably mention that for those local in Utah, we will be attending the Salt Lake GameCon tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday. So definitely come check us out. I think they're going to have a really cool community vote thing on Friday, and we'll be up on stage talking about our game and why it's going to be an amazing, awesome experience, why it is an awesome experience. So, yeah, so definitely come check that out. We'll have the demo set up. We'll be able to have you guys play and see what the game's all about, and give us a vote in the Player Choice Awards there at the conference. If you guys are planning on going, we appreciate it. All right, so today's agenda now, we've got several things in the docket. First off, as per usual, we're going to be designing some new cards for the game. And then we're going to be updating the game live for you here with a DLC push. So this is one of the very cool, unique things that we can do with the technology pipeline we've built is not only do we involve you in the design discussions, but we actually make the stuff right here in front of you. And then
you can play it right after the stream.
Right after the stream, yeah, and it's pretty awesome. So we're gonna give you guys a nice demonstration of that, and yeah, so let's go ahead and get started here. So I started off by picking just a nice little selection of some of our cards that we have. Let me minimize all my stuff here. All these things open here. Close my code down. This is our single player design talk, and then we'll be talking about here we go. Card design choices. Now I got way too many things open. Oh no, is it locking up? I'm gonna get to home. I'm gonna get to my friend one. It's like the entire system's locking up here. Are we still streaming? Or is it locking up?
Yep, still streaming.
Okay.
Good.
I'm not sure. Something on my computer is locking up. I can't seem to close down source tree. Let's just force quit it. Hopefully that'll work. There we go. Yay, I have control again. Sometimes when I do the stream, it just overloads the computer memory. I've got like so many things going here. All right, so I sort of went through some of the work in progress cards that are in the game now. If you have access to the pre-release, you'll currently see these as grayed out cards. And I just sort of wanted to pick some things I thought would be fun, that we could get sort of low-hanging fruits first, as far as things that were already somewhat designed that we can maybe add to the game to add a little bit more diversity and choices to your decks. So the cards I picked out for today's focus, the Cyclops is a giant mythological creature from Greek mythology with one eye. Ours happens to have really beefy elephant tusk as well, and Doan's armor and a really giant beat stick. So I've got
featured in the game trailer.
He's featured in the game trailer. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, he's one of the guys that beats.
I'm looking forward to seeing what he does.
Yes. So we got some cool ideas for him. And of course, as always, we'll query those of you watching to get your particular feedbacks, and we'll kind of hone him as we do with all of our characters on the screen here. So Goblin Champion, this is another character we're looking at doing today. Interesting story that inspired the Goblin Champion. So I've got a friend, a childhood friend I grew up with that was huge into D&D. And I remember one of the stories he always told me about, because he always joked when we played different games together how he's got this fear of goblins, because in one of his D&D campaigns, apparently he encountered a mob of goblins, and they just surrounded his paladin character and apparently eviscerated it. So now he's got this natural inborn fear of goblins, and so I thought, oh, this would be just too perfect to have this Goblin Champion. And my plans for what his ability will be is that when he attacks an enemy, it will inflict a natural fear of goblins. And while afraid of the goblins, it will give you extra damage. So he hits you, and then any of his goblin buddies that then gang up on you are going to deal extra damage to kind of recreate that sort of story my friend told me. We got the Gravity Trap. This has been one of our floor traps, and I've got some card text on it now that says when a unit enters the space we place it on, it's going to pull your teammates toward it. I pulled the card from the game because we actually built that design, and in internal testing determined it was not very effective for a number of reasons, which we'll talk about. And I've got a new idea for how we can make this card a little bit better tactically. So we'll look at that new design and see about implementing that one. And then I've got the Mana Loan. This is a great one. So obviously mana generation in the game is very important. This one's really cool for those who have mortgages or have loans on different things. It's kind of like a loan shark. You get a surge of energy up front now, but then you're going to pay it back by getting nothing on your next turn. So it's kind of an interesting way to shift the economies of the game.
I can see the really strategic players dominating with this card.
Yeah, definitely. So it's got that kind of cross trade up. I mean, I would love to see someone play it, then get counterspell and be like, no, and now they're in trouble for 2 turns. So yeah, definitely a fun one there. And then Tactician is a card a little bit more advanced for the players that like using our combo system. This one reactivates battle stances on all of your allies so that you can re-trigger combos and such in the same turn. So we may not design all these. I'm going to try to design at least 3. We're going to see how we're doing on time, because the other agenda we have for today is to give you guys an update on our single-player design. So not only have we been having a lot of discussions about where we think it'll go to kind of deliver the experience we want, but we've also made a lot of progress with the engine itself in supporting a lot of these features. So we'll be showing a live demo of that, and then Peter and I are going to be just kind of here bantering back and forth, tossing ideas like we normally do, and you guys will be here to either lurk and listen and enjoy the conversation, or jump in with your comment and feedbacks, and we would love to hear that.
We love having the hive mind.
Absolutely. All right, so I think for today, since I got the Manalone up, I think we're going to start with this guy, because of all the cards, I just was really feeling this one today. It just felt like a cool card to make. It's already got like the ability I want kind of written in there. So we're going to start off by giving you guys a demonstration of how we build these cards, and then we'll open it up to let you guys pick the next one and introduce your feedback as well. Okay, so we're going to jump to the D20 Definitions Editor app. This is a internal tool that we created at the company as a way of developing this game with a small team. So our internal team is 3 people. We also have a team of artists we work with overseas that do all of our mass art production. And as indie developers, we need to find a way to build this game, service it with new content consistently at the lowest cost possible, with the easiest way possible, so that we can maintain the demand for new content within the game. And so this tool is a one-stop shop for designing all of the content in the game. That includes levels, new characters, new spells, the logic and VFX, everything associated with the game's content. Even the game fundamental engine rules can be manipulated with this tool. And so we're going to use this today to make some of those new cards. This current module I'm in, it's all modular based, is the map editor. We started here just because we want to make sure that our sound and such was working, but as you can see here, I can actually play the game from within the tool itself. And we can also do really cool things like shift the perspective, so we can test different orientations when the screen's rotated, or change the different sizes, which is kind of fun. You can cast the cards and attack people and such. Yeah. So we'll be coming back into the editor here to actually test the cards we're making. All right, I'm going to jump out of this now, and we're going to go into the spells module. And the spells module here is where we've got all of the cards in the game. So if I jump in here right now, it's going to do a cache of all the icons. So I just completed that. And now I can flip through and browse all the cards in the game. Everything here is updated in real time. So as you see, I can type in this card, and it updates the card text. It's great for previewing it in live real time. You can change the art, the icon, and then, of course, all of the actual abilities associated with that card. So I'm going to jump down to where we've got Manalone. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is disable this card status non-functional. So right now, what this is doing is the card set alpha allows it to appear within the game, but since it's non-functional, it will appear as a inaccessible, like, grayed out card. We're going to turn this to functional so that it's going to become active. And of course, we have to make sure we get it working. But I like to do that first because I often forget. And then when I push the update, it's like, oh no, it doesn't actually appear as in the card that we use. We're going to get rid of this non-functional tag. And then I guess I'll start by saving that. Okay. So we've got a number of things we need this thing to do. First off, gain 3 mana, and then do not generate mana on your next turn. This first part is easy. This second part is much harder.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
All right, so first thing I'm going to do is we got the primary targeting method. and I'm going to say that this can probably target self. And the great thing about designing a tool like this is that I can refer back to things I've already built to see how I've made them, because my kind of immediate memory is not all encapsulated. Whenever you program things, you have to build these mental models, vast mental models of how all your systems work. And just like the computer runs out of resources, the ROS brain runs out of resources. So I can't necessarily keep everything in memory as to how I built everything. But what I do keep in memory is how references to things like the thing I'm trying to build. So fortunately, because this thing's mana, I can jump over here to Mana Surge, and oh, look at that. This card that already works in the game generates 2 mana. So I can kind of reference this as a way of using as a starting point for the card I'm trying to make. That's one of the great things about this whole tool, is that when you've already built things, your programming language becomes more high level. You can reference things based on other things you made versus having to think from scratch how to do it. So things get easier over time, which is great. So kind of looking at this card here, we can see that the way we did it was we have an action effect here. This is what determines what the card actually does when it's cast and executed. In this case here, it's adding to the trait mana on secondary target, which looks like that would be the player of the ability user. So there we go. And initially it's targeting the self, which would be the caster, and great. So this is pretty easy. We can easily make the first part of Mana Surge here. Let's go ahead and do that. So make a new action effect. Action effects. We call it an add to trait. No, see, I'm already trying to blank. Add to trait, there we go. And then we got mana. LM. I have a real hard time with alphabetical order for some reason. And then value, we want a 3 there. So add to trait mana by 3 on target. All right, the first part is done. We have target self. Okay, good. Then we want to make sure we do secondary target is going to be. Actually, I already forgot how to do that. Any player that is equal to the abilities you play. Okay, that's easy enough. All right, so any player. Okay, so here's our great little syntax thing. Target subject, target. Maybe say target player is equal to target subject ability user dot player. Is that right? Let me see if that's the same as when we did for Mana Surge. Oh, target is equal to the user. Okay, that's probably needs to be correct. This one gets target. Target is equal to ability user player. Let's make sure those match. Man alone, Mana Surge. Good. Oh, I also noticed that we want the target to be, this is 1. I don't know if that matters, but let's make that 0 too. 0 just means it's auto-designated. It doesn't require that it have a count. And since it's self, it's going to be super fine.
That's good. I was wondering what that was.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is all so crazy.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk. Some of the community is interested in getting access to our tools, and at some point we might.
This is what you'd be getting yourself into.
Yes, there's a major difference between making a developer tool and a player-facing tool. When you make a player-facing tool, you've got to be very careful and explain and provide clear UX and instructions for how everything works and what it's going to do in the game. And when you're making a developer tool, you basically just need to have the team understand it. So you can get by with a lot of less than clear things like the thing Peter just called out here, just because you kind of know internally what it does. Or Peter just asked me. So it's a great thing about working together here. All right, so we got that first part. Let's go ahead, and I like to do everything in sort of phases. I like to test things as I go to make sure that
let's see if it gives you 3 mana.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Before we do that, though, let's also go ahead and throw in the sound effects and the VFX and all that stuff. So here's the cast sound. That's our sound effects. Here is our transmute. Looks like the SFX for that.
Now, what is that doing? Is that referencing the location or?
Yeah. So right now, I'm eventually gonna make these drop downs, but right now the sound effects are just tagged via a string identifier. Yeah, so we have a kind of a cool system for sound effects. We've got some of them embedded within the actual compressed file, and they're just considered class references. And then when we add new sound effects, we can't deliver code updates over the air. So what we do is we have just MP3s. And so our audio system will actually first try to pull it from the stored client library, and if that fails, it'll go to the MP3 library and then find the reference.
Interesting.
So it's very adaptive, and that way, if we want to introduce new sound effects, we can deliver them over the air by just giving you guys an MP3 file in the manifest, and it'll know to download it, which is pretty darn cool. So that's how those work. But right now, I've talked about this before, but our main focus for the game right now is that we want to get functionality over the full visual VFX security. So everything we consider VFX the game right now is just this temporary placeholder. They're just sort of experiments of kind of demonstrating the direction we want to go, but we plan to build out a very robust VFX audio system in the final polish pass. But right now it's more about, let's make sure the card is balanced, let's make sure it plays correctly, let's make sure the AI knows how to use it. That's all the real important game mechanic stuff first. And then we add the VFX and the oomph to it in the next phase. Which is why we've got this card set here. There's actually 3 phases. There's non-functional, functional, and complete. Nothing in the game is considered complete yet, just FYI. All right, so we added the sound. All right, then last one we have is the animation. This is just our, what's it called? Temporary. It's like it creates like a little blue bubble to kind of show you that there's feedback happening. Again, placeholder animation, but the purpose of the animation is to give the player feedback that something happened. Without the animation at all, it feels like you don't know if the card worked or not. So that's why we put those in. Okay, so now let's go ahead and make a Dex test this. All right, so now I'm going to go into my, I'm going to back out of this. I'm going to go into Dex, and let's go ahead. I think last week we made the fire trap, so we're going to call this let's call this episode, today's episode 20. This is my 20th developer stream, crazy. And we'll save this. We're going to add, let's get rid of fire trap. We're going to put in the, Manaloon. So Manaloon. Okay. Save it. And boom, there it is. Cool. So now we can go back and we're going to go to our maps. And I'm going to go just pick a level here. All right. And I'm going to do a test. And I've already got episode 20 selected. You can see it's already updated the name. Cool. And we're going to see if it can generate 3 mana for us. So I start the game up. Okay. And there's Manaloon. It's castable. It costs 1 mana. That looks like it's working correctly. As you can see the little orb here updating. And good. I can't target anything, just myself. And I gained 3 mana. That's good. All right, let's make sure it actually gave 3 mana. I have to be specific here. So now we've got 2 mana, so now I've got 1 left, so we should be at 3. All right, 3. Cool. All right, the first part is done. Awesome. That's a little OP, though. 3 mana and no consequences. No consequence. So we got to add some consequences. I like situations where we build tension within the game, right? It's all about creating like these really unbelievably awesome powers, but then what you do is you twist it somehow to make there be like a trade-off. And those trade-offs create like psychological tension. It's like, oh no, I'm going to take the risk to get my mana now, but next turn... That's why I love it. The opponent counters your big spell or whatever. It really hurts. All right, so to kind of explain how we're going to do this next part, I'm actually not sure. I'm sort of, this is the hard part about developing on the fly, is that I'm just sort of making up how I'm going to do this as I'm talking, which is just awesome. We're going to look at how we actually program the rule for how mana is generated. Okay, so I mentioned that everything about Summoner's Fate is programmed via this tool, like all the content, all the rules, and we can create vastly different gameplay experiences by simply changing the core rules. And the rules themselves are editable as definition. So they're in the players table, and it was kind of cool. During our very, very early playtesting, I had a small group of players from our first game, Hero Mages, and we would gather together weekly on Google Hangouts. And I would send them builds, and they would play out things. And we actually, one of the things we tested was we tried different variants of the rules. So it took us quite a while, a number of iterations to get to this perfect, I guess what we consider like the Summoner's Fate mechanics of how the game works. Specific things like how many cards do you have in your hand? How do you draw cards? How do you discard cards? How do you gain mana? Is mana permanent? Does it last each turn, or does it go away at the end of the turn? Does mana build each turn? And get larger? Does your cap increase each turn? All kinds of things like that. And you can see here, this is sort of how we were discussing it before.
One of my favorites is No summoning sickness.
No summoning sickness. Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, summoning sickness. That was one of the variants. So you can see down here, did we have summoning sickness as a variant? No, this one did not test it. But one of the ones we did have was the summoning sickness. We had tested with and without, and my God, was it way more fun without it. I don't know why. It's like Magic the Gathering made summoning sickness a thing, and now every game that's a card game like copies that. Like they all, it's just sort of like a Magic did it, therefore it must be right.
Yeah.
And that's why we like to challenge things. Like, you know what if we didn't have that? And it's turned out to be one of the most exciting things about the game. And I suppose a reason why summoning sickness is not necessary for Summoner's Fate is that you've got the tactical board, right? I guess in a game like Magic or Hearthstone where you just have cards, there's no dimension of physical space. And if you didn't have summoning sickness, it would be akin to just blasting with a fireball, right? Because the monster
Right.
could just go right over there and deal the damage. But with Summoner's Fate, you've got this tactical board where they have to be able to move into position to attack you. So if you're far enough away, it doesn't matter if they summon a character. The worst they can do is run toward you. They can't necessarily attack you in that same turn. So yeah, that's why the summoning sickness wasn't needed for us, and it feels a lot more fun when you can just drop a guy and go at it. All right, so here's how the mana works. So these are all the rules and of how they work, and I believe this one here is the mana. Yeah, mana, turn counter on start turn. So we're going to look at this. So basically what I'm doing is, at the start of the turn, and this executes immediately, so it goes outside of the regular stack order, we're going to generate mana, and how are we determining that? I think I get 3. Oh, okay. It looks like it does it based off a trait. This is good to know because we're going to need to use this to nullify the mana they get. All right, so at the start of the turn, we're going to add trait to mana per turn on the player, and then it looks like we also increment the turn counter. This is kind of 2 rules in one. I guess I did that probably to save memory or processing. Okay, so kind of the reason we're looking at this is because what we need to do for mana loan is we need to undo that. And we need to undo it specifically on the next turn, but we don't want to have it override it after that rule. All right, so
Now, what if somebody uses a remove status effect cleanse or something? Would that give you your mana the next turn?
that's a good question. So I like that. Peter's already thinking ahead because he's obviously partaken in a lot of these things. And
Because that would affect the design quite a bit. If you're modifying the base rule,
yep,
then you definitely couldn't undo that.
absolutely. So Peter mentioned the term status effect. So what we're going to do here, basically, that's the kind of next step is we're going to need to put this rule somewhere. Like we're going to have to create a triggered ability that happens at the start of the turn to undo this rule. But in order to do that, we have to also create a new permanent on the board to store that rule, because a triggered ability can't live on its own. It has to live inside of something else. And so status effect is exactly the right thing we're going to do. We're going to make a status effect, store it somewhere, and then have that trigger the rule. But then Peter's asked a great question. We've got spells like Dispel Magic that can remove status effects. Well, if you remove the status effect, it kind of gets rid of the negative, right? And I, for one, feel the negative should be like permanent, right? So what we'll do for that is we've got a nice little kind of hook to this. We can do that. We'll what's it called? We make the status effect non-removable. In fact, we'll make it so it's not even surfaceable. It won't be something the player necessarily sees.
Yeah.
We can hide it. It can be like a hidden, permanent, non-removable status effect. Okay. But we started off with this part here. So one of the cool things I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to grab this thing. I use this little get here. This copy is the raw data of this rule. And we're using this so we can kind of create the reverse engineer of this rule in our mana loan. Okay, so now we're going to back out of this and go back to our spells and start to assemble the various pieces in our diabolical plan to rob you of mana on your next turn. Pay the loan shark his dues. Just love this artwork for it. It just so clearly represents what's going on here. This deal with this demon. This is great. So we all contribute in different ways to the art. And there was a time, like I think Kelly actually, my wife, she does our community marketing and things like that, social media and stuff. And she actually helped a lot with a lot of the different concepts. So the way we work with our art team is we create different concepts of different ideas together, different idea collage, and we have to kind of come up with an idea to represent what's happening in the card art. But yeah, I think this was one that she did that had like that creepy hand and the gold and the trade off, like this the exchange of the hands. I just love how that just so
very communicates it very well.
Communicates it very well, yes. Okay. All right, so one of the cool things that we did in a previous stream was we actually edited the editor itself and created this ability to make nested abilities, which is awesome because this allows us to entirely encapsulate the logic of the card directly within itself, so that we don't have to worry about necessarily hurting any of the other rules, global stuff in the game. If the card breaks the system, it's going to be just isolated to this one card, which is really good for us and for testing. So what we're going to do is create a new nested status effect here. And we're going to call this the, I don't know, I guess we'll just call it
Bounty Hunters.
Mana Loan status, I don't know, just so I can link it together. All right, and we won't need to worry about a key for this because we're not going to actually surface this to the player. So if I don't put a description, it won't actually appear for the player on their card. And what we're going to do here is create a triggered ability, and that's where we're going to go in here and then add this rule. So I can show you to load in the rule. So here's that mana start of turn rule, and we're going to have to obviously change the logic for this, but I wanted to use it as a starting point to kind of nullify the mana. Okay, so what we're going to basically do here is create the opposite of this rule. We can get rid of the turn counter. We're not going to be modifying that. Instead of add to trait, we're going to subtract from trait. So it's now the opposite. Subtract from trait. There we go. But not subtract, subtract. Okay. So we're going to basically say you're going to subtract the mana. So what will happen is at the start of the turn, you are going to generate mana, but then this rule is going to basically pop in and be like, nope, I'm going to subtract it. So positive plus the negative should come to 0. You get the idea. All right. Now, let me see if this logic turns out correctly or not. So we have ability user is event activator. So where this is going to be a little tricky is these logic pieces have to line up. And so what's happening in the game background is we're firing all these different events whenever something in the game happens. And I've created this little shortcut key because, again, I told you I have I can't contain the whole mental model in my head. I need a way to reference it. So for every event in the game, I create these little cheat sheets. And as you change the events, this little cheat sheet changes to tell you sort of what's happening. So that various pointers like the activator, the target, etc., all these different parameters of the event firing are sort of known to you when you're designing the ability of how they're going to map back to meaningful gameplay stuff. I'm going to first off call this this rule. Let's just make this a bit more easier. This would be like subtract mana on start turn, so I can kind of reference it. Okay, execute on trigger is good. Okay, so it looks like this is a player event. Okay, so it's assuming that this event or this ability is attached to the player itself. And the first question in my mind I'm thinking to myself is, can I attach status effects to players? I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can. I'm trying to think, because technically they're grid objects. Technically they should be able to store status effects, but I don't know if I've ever actually attached a status effect to a player before.
And is the player the summoner?
No. So the summoner is a unit on the board. The player is a separate entity object. They're both attribute holders, and technically they're both grid objects. So they should technically both support the ability to have status effects. So I actually think that this might work. We'll try it this way first, and if it fails, we'll try it a different way. That's the great thing about this, is we get to kind of experiment. All right, so we're going to assume we're going to place this status effect on the player, and it's going to do this rule, and they're going to not get mana. Okay, let's start with this first part, which is going to just see if we can stop ourselves from getting mana. And then we'll add the additional rules to make it so that on subsequent turns we get our mana back. Okay.
Self-destruct.
Exactly. All right, so let's back out of this. So this is saved. Okay, and then we want to make it so that this trait cannot be removed. So I have a property for that. Cannot be removed is 1. Okay, good. And hit save. Okay. And now go back, and I will save this again. All right. So we've created the status effect that's got a rule attached to it, but we need to actually place it onto the player. Oh, you know what? I actually just realized that this is adding mana to the target, which looks like it's both self and this should have been secondary target. Let's change that. It doesn't necessarily. So basically, the summoner of us get mana too, and that doesn't do anything. Okay, so what we're going to do now is add a new effect, and we're going to do apply status effect custom. and subtype will be nested 0. So this just, the nested refers to the index here. So this is index 0, that's the first one, then the next one will be 1, then 2, and so forth. Okay, and we're going to apply this to the player, secondary target. Okay? Okay, so I think that's all we have to do. This should make it so that I don't get mana. Let's find out if it worked. So we're going to go back to the player, go to maps, we go test on procedural 2. And let's go ahead and start game once again. Okay, so trying to think how we're going to do this. So we really need to spend some mana too so that we can actually see that we... Alright, so we got our 3 mana, and let's just cast that. Okay. So I've got 2 mana left. So the question is, when I end my turn and my new turn starts, will I get mana back? Let's find out. Okay, true moves, we got something. And it's our turn. Yeah, I think that worked. First time, I like that. I like when things work the first time. All right. Now the problem is, like I said, we didn't remove the status effect. So what we've actually done is permanently cut off our mana supply. Now we will never. Let's get him out of the way so he doesn't come kill us. And let's just demonstrate again. But I'm pretty sure we will not get any mana forever. No mana. Oh, sad. And let's just double check here. We can even look in the log. This is our debug log. It'll show us everything that's been happening in the game. And my gun is that really small. But if I find starter turn, I should see somewhere in here that it says it cannot use mana. Let's see if we can find it. Computer's turn to start. Here we go. Here we go. So here's where our mana rule triggered. It says generate mana on starter turn resolves. And then, oh, look, there's our subtract mana on starter turn triggers and resolve. So that's basically what we had planned to do, right, was to create a counter to the rule being done. And by doing that, by creating a negative to the positive, we neutralized it and get 0. So here we go. Okay, so that's working. Now we make sure that that rule goes away. So let's go do that next. I'm going to go to the spells once again. Go to mana. Okay, okay. So the good news about this rule is it's going to be actually pretty easy to do. And I mentioned how we have building blocks where we can kind of use things we've already done. And one of the cool things I've already built is these durations. Where effects can be automatically removed by doing something like this. Oh, let's see, is that going to give it a description? I don't want it to do that. Interesting. I don't want this to... Oh, you know what? It won't matter, because it's going to appear on the player. So we don't have to worry about it being surfaced. All right, so what this is saying is duration is start of their next turn. So what will happen is that this duration ability is a status effect that's already got a trigger in it to remove the status effect it's attached to when the duration says. So kind of like I talked about, when we build these higher level language things, we can use them to make our work easier in the future, right? And so since we have a lot of status effects that automatically remove at the start of the turn, then we can kind of reuse those building blocks, and that's what we're doing here. So let's save that, and I believe that should work. So let's go and test it now. This could be the smoothest development to date. I can't believe it worked in the first try. That just shocks me. We always have bugs. Okay, so same thing as before. We're going to cast something to get rid of mana. I'm going to cast Mana Loan. I'm going to cast this. Guys. All right, I'm going to end my turn. Okay, so he has going to move. At the start of my turn, I get no mana. Okay, now we're going to move back again, just because, and end my turn. All right, so this turn, the effect should wear off. We should get mana back, and we should get 5 mana. Show me 5 mana.
No.
Oh, fail. Okay, see, I knew it was getting too easy here. So what happened? Why didn't it trigger the effect? Okay. It's possible it worked. Maybe we should try one more turn. Let's go one more turn, and maybe it's the fact that it had to go one more turn on Spider Wheels. Let's see if this turn again. Then we'll know it's just a rounds thing. Uh-oh. Oh, there it goes. Okay, I was like, why are they locking up there? No. Okay, so it completely failed. Didn't do anything, which is weird. Maybe I forgot to save it. That would be hilarious if that was the problem. Sometimes I forget. I've got these multiple levels of save, and I have yet to add a... I bet you I forgot to save it. Nope, I did save it. Okay, so... Intriguing. Why did this not work? It's, it's possible that duration is not programmed for players. Let's go take a look at that thing.
Uh,
So we're going to do a little debugging here. So let's go look at the duration start next turn and see what this says. Okay, so remove on start of ability user's turn. Okay, I bet you this is part of the issue. Yes, ability user.player equals event activated. It's possible that this particular trigger is not compatible when used on a player. So the question is, would a player, the player will be the ability user since it's affixed to them, but what happens when you reference the player.player? Does that reference the player? I don't know what that does. I'm guessing that's probably the issue. We may have to make a custom version of this particular rule. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and copy this. Yeah. And let's go back to our Manalone and just make a special version of this rule that will work with player as the status holder. I don't think I've ever attempted to put a status effect in the player before, so I'm not surprised we're having issues here. Right, so let's get rid of this. That's not doing anything for us. Go trigger abilities, edit, load up that rule. Okay. So this is the rule we really care about, is right here. Basically, we want to remove this. In fact, you know what? I don't need to do that. We can make this even simpler. Let's delete this rule. We don't need to do that. We can just add it here. So immediately after this rule triggers, let's remove the status effect. Let's just make this really simple. I made this too complex. So we have a thing here that says remove status effect, and the target is going to be the source. So the source is the status effect in this case.
Also proper self-destruct.
Proper self-destruct. I like that. Yeah. Okay, let's give it a shot now. Let's see what happens. Okay, save and go back, and save again, and go back. Okay, here we go. Hey, we got somebody chatting with us. Oh, you're already talking to him.
Hello. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Kelson,
If people chat, call them out. Call them out so we can recognize them on the stream. The Kelson is here. Thanks for being with us here today, Kelson. Good to have you back as always. And hope you're enjoying the stream so far. Okay, so let's go ahead and start game again. Alright, so same test as before. We're going to plop that down, cast a Manalone, get rid of that, get him out of the way, and turn. Okay, as before, the AI will march forward, and then it will, we don't want to see mana, no mana. Okay, and now the turn is over. We paid our debt to the society, and this next turn we should see. Mana. Yes!
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah!
Of course it worked.
Excellent. So there we go. Manalone is official. It works as described. We've done our job. We've done our due diligence testing here, and that card is ready to go. So one card made so far.
Let's check the log.
Oh, yeah. Good call. Yeah, let's just have a check on the log here. So what we should be seeing is mana turn. You can see here there was no negative rule triggered. And then our last turn.
Self-destruct at the end.
Yeah. So it's right here. Yep, that's it. So it's not gonna log it because it's just part of its effect.
Just doing the thing.
It's just doing its effect. But that's the thing we want to look for here is that here it resolves, and then here the trigger is gone because it's removed it. So yeah, that worked pretty sweet, pretty awesome. Cool. So Manalone is done. That's gonna be a fun card. Really great for the Celestial decks. Actually, lots of decks can make use of that card, man. Whew. Yeah. So the great thing about that is that now you can use it to get out really big stuff, like the really powerhouse cards. Man, I'm almost worried about the power of that card. You can use that. Like I see that a great combination for that one being where is it here? This guy disintegrates. Cast a Manalone and finish the game. That's a game-winning combination right there.
Yeah.
Manalone and Disintegrate there, 10 damage on the Summoner. But again, it's highly vulnerable to counter effect type of thing. So if you got a Celestial Barrier or something on your character, you can counter that. You can put yourself at a huge disadvantage going forward from the next turn if that fails. So yeah, Manalone actually does come at a cost. You're not necessarily gaining things. It has 2 costs associated with it. Obviously, you don't get mana the next turn, so you're paying that cost is in terms of how you can react. Like losing mana on your next turn is a big disadvantage. Like you want to use this card to win, but then on a subsequent turn here, Manalone. Let's see here. Yeah, you're also paying 1 to cast it. So you're not necessarily getting 3. You're getting 2 mana. For the price of 1 and also the cost of losing your turn. we've got another one here, Mana Surge, that has a similar. This one just gives you 2 mana for 1 mana, so it's not a big of a power surge as the last one. And also Mana Burn is another one. This one gives you 3 mana, but then you take it and damage yourself. So it's kind of another cool way to generate energy and create tension. So different forms of tension. This one's damage. This one's just a small bit, and then this one is, do not generate mana next turn. That's pretty good. Cool. All right, so that's done. I think next time maybe feeling the Goblin Champion. What do you think about him?
Champion, Cyclops,
Or Cyclops. Yeah, anyone, we got Kelsum or anybody watching have any thoughts? You want to go Cyclops, Goblin Champion, or maybe Gravity Trap? Any preference? Which one we go for next?
I'm interested in seeing the Cyclops.
Cyclops? Yeah, okay. Cyclops, yeah, he's a lot of fun. Let's go check out Cyclops. Okay. So yeah, Peter mentioned he's featured in our trailer. There's a great little thing with him where the Cyclops attacks a dude, knocks him back off the map, and then the wizard polymorphs him into a squirrel and kills him. It's just like, take that, big guy. It's a great defense for a big giant units. Okay, so this guy's a fun one. I've got a few different ideas we've talked about with him because there's just so many cool aspects of the character. I'll give you the ones we know for sure. So he's going to have a beat stick, a giant, big old beat stick. That's this club here, okay? And he uses it to knock things away, really far away, like a giant baseball bat. So his inherent power, which we already showed in the trailer, I want to keep consistent, is his knockback 5. So when he hits somebody, he sends them basically flying across the map, which is hilarious. But we can do more, because he's going to be, I want him to be a big, beefy, like really powerful character. So we should probably talk about that. Like, he doesn't have a cost associated with him yet. He needs to have one.
Yeah, it seems like a 4 or
I don't see a 5. Yeah, so if he's a 4, there's a special, a guardian. Yeah, special consideration. So in our game, there are
more like a dragon.
Yes, I think he's more like a dragon. There's different kinds of characters in the game in Summoner's Fate. There is a summoner, which is your primary hero caster that you play as, and when you're playing PvP, the object of the game is to defeat the enemy summoner. So if you kill the summoner, you that player immediately loses, and if you're surviving, you win the game instantly. If your summoner dies, you still lose. That's the actual rule. If your summoner dies, you lose. So if you kill the other summoner, and I actually had a game yesterday, I was playing somebody where I decided to detonate myself because I was going to lose anyway. So I made it so he had to kill me, and then we both blew up, and we both lost. Nobody wins. It's pretty funny. And then there are the summons, the creatures you summon on the board, but then there's also something called Guardian. Guardians are characters that can start on your team. So this is a really cool thing that makes Summoner's Fate kind of unique. Most games you have to sort of summon your army from nothing, but in Summoner's Fate you start with a party of characters in the match. And that actually adds considerably to the strategical planning, because Guardians often have synergistic complementary powers in themselves that work well together. And so part of the creativity is not just choosing which cards you're going to play in the deck, but also who your starting team is. And our rule of thumb for what determines whether a character qualifies as a starting character is their cost. And our cost ranges from 0 to 5. If the character costs exactly 4, he can be considered a Guardian. Anything more or less than that, he can't be cast as a Guardian. So it's always an important consideration when we choose whether they have a cost of 4 or not. But in this case, I think this guy's worthy of a 5 cost.
That would be cool.
We're going to make him really beefy. So let's give him a cost of 5. And then I think I need to get rid of this coming soon thing at the top. There we go.
Change that non-functional.
Oh yeah, thank you for that. So I forgot that. Functional, save. Okay, let's start here. So here's the initial stats. Okay, so he costs 5, he does 5 damage, and he has 13 health. I guess this was just some arbitrary numbers I picked for the trailer. Came up with them. We're gonna give him some more powers though. So let's talk about what his potential powers are here. I've got a few ideas. The first one is knockback 5 is really cool, but he can only attack one thing. So right off the bat, one thing I think would make this hilariously more fun is if we gave him a swipe attack. So swipe basically makes it so that, let me hide this thing, when he attacks, since his bat goes across these 3 frontal squares, swipe would make it so it actually hits everybody in the 3 front row.
That's a good idea.
And what would be hilarious about this is with a knockback of 5, it'll send every one of those guys flying back 5. So I feel like the fun level here is just really satisfying. Be like, take that, and just send an entire mob of people going flying backwards.
Yeah.
Right, and we're all about the epic fun here. So that to me seems like a good win. So that's one of the abilities. The second one, obviously, he's got armor. He's an armored Cyclops. So giving him some armor ability, I think, would be great. I love the idea that, because he's got this eye, he's vulnerable being poked in the eye. And so sort of the trade-off I thought was like, we give him like a ton of armor, which makes him like impervious to almost anything. But a Pierce unit could just
kill him.
Could just completely take him out and decapacitate him, which I think is hilarious. And there's all kinds of Pierce units in the game. One of my favorites is the little rabbits that the druid summons.
Yeah. If he's taken out by rabbits.
Yeah, and the rabbits, it's like, because armor is such a good ability because it regenerates you get all your armor health back at the start of each turn. So it can make a character almost impossible to kill, but Pierce just knocks the armor out entirely. So even a little tiny bunny with the Pierce could go and just like maul the Cyclops in the face and take him down, which I think is hilarious. Giving things like a lot of power, but then like a really weird weakness is so much where the fun comes in, I think. It's like a rock, paper, scissors. So that's something. He's also got these tusks we built into him. And I love the idea. We've got very few characters right now that use the charge mechanic, which is when an enemy ends their movement facing a character. They actually do this so that this is like a regular movement, and then they can also do this charge movement you see here. Run at the character. And what will happen is when you charge a character and your movement facing them, it will trigger a new ability. So we've got like a Minotaur right now that can use his tusks, and he basically rams into you and knocks you back. But I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we gave another character like that? Maybe, though, instead of ramming you back, he just sort of does some extra damage, and then he can also do his beatdown there. So that was kind of the idea I had. Let's see, where can I do that cast? Charge cast? Yeah. Here's a ramming effect. Throw his tusks into it. So that was kind of a fun one. I also had thought about something where maybe he's protected from spells while he's got his armor, kind of thinking like Juggernaut from the X-Men is immune to like mental attacks and stuff like that. But now we're getting down the path of like too many powers.
Yeah.
like I'm just like so excited. I want to give him like all the powers because I just love this character. He's just like one of my favorites. I just love the monstrous beastness of him. Anyway, so what do you think?
Getting the psychic taking control of him, it would be pretty terrifying. I kind of like that if he's like weak-minded, easily controllable.
Yeah, I like that. I like that aspect because like in X-Men, there was always a thing where Wolverine has to like cut off his helmet to like make him, vulnerable to psychic attacks, and then they eventually just like pacify him. But I feel like this is, like I said, it's getting almost like too much now. Like there's other characters we can use those kind of ideas on.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
Start with the swipe. Let's start
with
the swipe. I'm trying to think if I have swipe as a. I can't recall if it's like a. I think it is an existing ability. Let's see if it's. Because there's a couple characters in the game right now that use it. There's the bear, and there's the arcane giant that has a swipe. So I'm assuming I have a ability for it. Yeah, here it is. Look at the swipe. There it is. So here's a cool thing. When we created abilities that exist, I can just drop them in there, and look at that. It just adds it. Isn't that awesome? And so this will, when the card tooltip pops up, it will actually tell you what this does. So I mentioned swipe as an existing mechanic. Very easy. We don't have to worry about programming it. We know that these two things will work. So already he's awesome. And then the other thing we want to do is give him charge, and then the armor. Wow, he's going to have so many powers. All right, let's give him some armor. Let's see, that's up here. Armor. A for armor. Okay. And how much armor does he get? I would say a lot. So right now a troll has, I think, 3. So I could see him having 4 or maybe even 5, but then we should probably drop his health down or something like that. Oh, let me neutralize my phone. All right, let's give him like 4. Maybe we'll talk about giving him 5. He's very heavily armored now. Okay, and then so he's at 4 armor. Maybe I don't know, 4 or 5.
5 sounds good. I like the
5 too.
5, 5, 5.
All right, so then what do we drop his
Easier
health
to remember.
down to then? So he's got to go down to at least 10. Does it seem that's
Possibly
a
8.
ton of health? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, so if you had any kind of pierce unit would drop him down to 9 immediately because you're doing at least 1 damage, and then 9 damage taken out. That's
Well,
That
and
seems
Pierce eliminates the armor for other attacks.
Yep, it does. And it does damage too. All right, let's try that. And then we talked about giving him the Tusk power, so we'll take a look at that in a second here. Maybe this would be just enough on its own, because I don't know. See, I like the idea of him ramming it too with the Tusks. Let's test this out real quick and see how he works. I'm excited. I'm excited to try him out. Beat stick with the Cyclops. Okay. All right. So let's get rid of. Let's swap out Fire Elemental with Giant Cyclops. Okay. Yes. Now we need some guys from here to beat down. Let's give him some goblins to kill. Okay, some goblins. Oh my god. That is... Get out of here, goblins. Ugh. With like beating up a pile of goblins. Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, that feels really good just on its own. That feels already pretty good. That cost. He just dealt 15 damage in total there. And the knockback is devastating. 5 damage. It basically means that they're not coming back to retaliate that turn. That potentially could be enough power for him. Oh man, I just love this character. Beat down! Yeah, this swipe just makes it so gratifying. The fact that it's going flying out like that. Oh dear. Okay, and so he's vulnerable to Pierce, so we know anything with the Pierce is going to hurt him. Let's throw the rabbit down. I'll show you why the bunnies are like the nemesis of this thing. There's a bunny. So watch this. He's got 5 armor, now he's got 0, so he brought him down to 9 right off the bat there. Ouch! That was devastating. Hurt the Cyclops.
Now, one thing with these big characters is I'm always surprised when they get knocked back. That's a little bit silly for a barbarian to knock back a big dragon or a Cyclops.
That's a good point.
Like, it makes me wonder about like giving them rooted or what do you call that?
Anchored.
Anchored.
Yeah, we had talked about that. There was I'm not sure. I can't recall if we had implemented anchored or not yet. I think we did. We did implement anchored. Right now, I think it just makes it so that you can't be knocked back. Right? It just makes it you're anchored. You can't be knocked back. So that's definitely something you should consider, where you can't knock back like certain giant units can't be beat down. Oh, he's on my team. I'm knocking down. But this guy. So here, and the tree also has a knockback of 5. So maybe this is where it seems a little bit weird that this giant guy here is just like that feels a little strange because he's so big that maybe he should be,
reduces knockback. Maybe anchored could just reduce knockback.
Yeah.
By 2 or 3 or something.
Yeah, like it's a amplitude-based value as opposed to a flat value. That's a good idea. Because then you could do things like that where giants just have a certain amount of weight to them that makes it so that they subtract from it. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, you could just make it part of a giant, giant.
Oh yeah. It could be a giant. All giants just seem to all have a ability that gives them a level of reduces knockback by X amount or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, because then you can have really big things that just don't get knocked around at all. That's a good call. That's a very good call. Yeah, it does feel weird to move something that big around.
Yeah, then he's suddenly weightless.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. There's definitely weirdness with it. I think it's the same thing with the giant tree getting moved down.
Yeah. Although the tree and the barbarian, that makes sense for them to have that tree as a giant.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Maybe it should just be reserved for the really big. Plus, you got the weight of all that armor and stuff. Yeah, that's a tricky call. Well, anybody out there have any thoughts? Should we be adding this thing in there now? Should we be considering it as a global change? Always looking for feedback here. So if you've got thoughts or opinions, feel free to shout it out. Peter's on the Discord as well, so we're kind of monitoring both chats in case you guys were chatting on Discord.
Question like this go into early access or
Good question. Maybe game discussion? Is there game ideas, man? Maybe game ideas. I feel like we would need to make that really powerful. It might feel weird just making isolated anchored Cyclops when your dragons are still getting knocked around. Because I feel like a dragon would also be pretty heavy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Let's for fun, I'm gonna go in here and we're gonna try giving him a charge ability and see what we think about how that feels. If it feels too OP or not, because he's pretty strong already. He may not warrant another ability. Oh, I had a bug. I'm not sure what that was. Modify materials here. All right, let's see. I'm gonna grab. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna copy the Minotaur's ability and give it to him and see how that feels for us. So I'm going to here. Edit, copy. Let's see. Okay, and go back to the giant Cyclops. Okay. It's got a big old Cyclops. And we're going to go in here and go in there and load that in. Okay, so Minotaur looks like he dealt damage and knockback equal to distance move. We're not going to do knockback. We're going to just deal. We're just going to say damage enemy equal to distance move. Okay, and then let's go ahead and edit this and really knockback. I'm going to put the ideal cast as check. That's perfect. Save. Okay. Save. Okay. So that definitely adds a lot of card text to him. It makes his card look really cluttered in terms of what it's got on there. That's one of the concerns I have is he's really overloaded with abilities now. But let's just see how it feels, and if it's too much, we can take it out. Yeah, there's lots of other characters we can use the charge ability for that I think would be appropriate. Okay, so now we took out the knockback, so he's just going to deal. So you guys see the little Tuscan machine. And it definitely feels pretty cool. Kind of like it. It does fit pretty well. He's a giant. He's got tusks. Oh man, he's just like a wrecking machine of awesome. Did we make the Cyclops too good? Did we fall in love with the Cyclops too much? If there was a way I could reduce this card text, I just don't like that he looks so cluttered. I'd love to have this on 3 lines. I don't like seeing so much text. It just feels like this is overwhelming. Maybe it should just be a flat damage, like deal 2 damage, as opposed to deal damage equal to distance moved. That makes it more complex as well. Maybe it should just be 2 damage, 1 for each tusk, regardless of how far you move. Maybe it's simple, you think. Yeah, let's try that. Then it feels like we're not doing anything too. See, there's some kind of bug in my editor here for my changes. Let's see here. Giant Cyclops. Okay, let's go ahead and tweak his power. We're just going to say you got 2 damage. And I want this to be damage. Boop. Okay, save that. And then we make this be edit. We should just be subtract the left and then 1 number and get rid of this use event now. Cool. I like it. And then what we'll do here is change this to 2. So ratchet up the amplitude there. And oh man, see, it almost fits on 2 lines. I could just get it fixed. Maybe if I move this around a little bit. I'm just trying to figure out how to charge. Like I'm trying to figure out the order of actions here. Let's see. What does it feel the best at? Maybe Armor 5 should be at the top. I don't know. How should we arrange that? Should it be Armor 5, Knockback 5, Spike? Maybe Spike goes here. Trying to figure out which one looks the nicest in terms of the layout. Swipe, Armor 5, Knockback 5, Charge, deal 2 damage. Maybe that one. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that if this is going to be a character with anchored eventually, that it would make sense to get rid of charge. Just that somebody that is anchored probably shouldn't be.
Or we like it like
agile.
this. You can also do it like that. Deal 2 damage.
That looks.
That looks pretty good. That looks clean. Yeah, so he's got a lot of powers. He's overloaded, but he's just a fun character. I want him to be awesome. He'll be like one of those giants in the room too. Like I want an encounter with this guy where he's just like, oh crap, the Cyclops.
Yeah.
Almost like a little mini boss there. Cool. All right, I like that. Cool. And let's go ahead and test that out again. Just make sure he's working as we expected. And then I think we got him done. Cool. I'm excited. I like him. I like Cyclops. Let's go teach these guys a lesson. Cyclops for the win! All right. All right, so we got that one working nice and good. All right, so that's 2 cards made. How about we go and look at
Goblin Champion.
Goblin Champion. Okay, this one's going to be a fun one because we'll be adding a new vulnerability power. One of our weirder mechanics that we have in the game is the vulnerability mechanic. All right, so let's go to units. I got that. I'm not sure what it's called yet. I'll have to look into that. All right, G for Goblin Champion. Okay. So let's start off with getting the basic idea figured out, which is the power where he's going to cause fear of goblins. That's the root, and then we'll decide what we want to add to him. But let's start with that. Okay, so I need a character that already adds vulnerability to something, and I know all of our Earth-themed characters are notorious for this. We got the element of Earth is all about smashing and weakening you to everything else. So I'll kind of talk a little bit about how that works. This is the first of our Earth characters, the Earth Elemental. So the idea is they inflict something called vulnerable, and the vulnerable has 2 parts to it. It has a thing that you're vulnerable to, and then a number. The number corresponds to how much additional damage you're going to take from the thing that you are vulnerable to. In this case, Earth Elementals make you vulnerable to everything. So he hits you in the head with his club and imbues the Earth infliction of vulnerable all. Then anything until the next turn you take damage from, you take an additional damage from.
So it's psychic, lightning, fireball,
anything. In this case, anything from
Earth.
So that's what's awesome about Earth Elemental is that you can combine them together. In fact, I played a player, one of our players yesterday had a really great deck where they used the Earth Drake and the Earth Rock Giant and then just completely crushed me because they made a deck where they just attacked me with that one thing and then they summoned a bunch of weenie 1/1 things, but the damage was all cumulative. So it's like these 1/1s are dealing like 3 extra damage to me. And then I got poisoned, and then the poison also made me take vulnerability. It was like such a great combination. Good. Yeah, it was awesome. So we're going to basically we're going to use the inflict ability, but we're going to use it with, we're going to make it specifically goblins. So that's where it's going to get a little tricky because I got to figure out how that's going to work. I haven't tweaked this in a while, but so it looks like nested inflict vulnerability, and looks like this does apply status effect vulnerable to all 1. Okay, great. So let's go ahead. We're going to start off with, and this is a nested. This is a stored ability. It looks like multiple things can use this. Okay, we are going to do the following. I'm going to, because we're going to need to create a custom version of this inflict ability. So I'm going to call this inflict vulnerable. I'm going to say goblins here. This is kind of weird because I'm going to save it. The reason I'm doing this is so that this becomes, you see that just got converted to a nested. So now it's no longer referencing a global ability. It's a custom ability. I did that so I can go in here and I'm going to basically steal it. I'm going to say get string, and now it's going to, we're not going to save this guy. We'll leave him alone. I'm going to go into the Goblin Champion now. Yes, and now we're going to go in here, edit, and then reload that ability. Alright, so now he's got inflict vulnerable goblin. Okay, great. And this needs to be inflict vulnerable goblin. Okay, great. Alright, and this is where it's going to be a little tricky because this vulnerable, this is currently a global status effect. Looks like we've got 2 current global vulnerable status effects. We have vulnerable to all, vulnerable to fire. Now, let's talk about how we're going to construct this, because I think this will be the only character that makes you vulnerable to goblins. So we don't need to make it a global ability. It will be an ability embedded directly within the champion, so that we don't have to worry about preserving it into the future as a global ability. So let's go look at the vulnerable powers, and I'll show you how we're going to make this. So in status, vulnerable.
Imagining like 3 or 4 cards all about getting vulnerable to goblins.
All goblins.
Like a theme
Fear
going
the
on.
goblins. All right. So vulnerable is a weird power because it needs to trigger a numerous set of things to make it happen. Let's see, this is interesting. Vulnerable, nested VFX and effects. Right, so this is applying VFX here. Vulnerable fire is adding extra fire damage. Okay, I see what's happening here. This is adding the actual affliction of it. So it looks like I don't apply the affliction for vulnerable to fire, but I do apply it for vulnerable all. So we're going to probably clone this ability here is what I'm thinking we're going to do. So this power here, vulnerable, is sort of the base class that makes all vulnerable powers work. And the cool thing is it's already built. It does, looks like it does the following things. It adds extra damage as part of the sequence, but the thing is with vulnerability, you want to have all the bonus damage that happens all happen at the same time. So it basically kind of occurs and triggers after the character takes damage from something. And so what this thing does is it drills down to the conditions and it figures out all of the possible extra damage you could take from whatever the sources were, and then it clears all the variables for you so it doesn't like continue to multiply the damage out of control. And so that's already built. It already has an animation associated with it to bubble that damage up. So the cool thing is we can just kind of reuse this, and to make it, I think we're going to use the vulnerable to all. So this one here is similar to vulnerable to fire, but the difference is that it also looks like it adds some custom VFX automatically when it gets added, so that it shows like a little like negative status marker to show that I've been afflicted by something. Yeah, looks like this is also considered a debuff, and it can stack. So that's the other important thing. With vulnerability, it can stack. So if you had 2 goblin champions, you're extra afraid of goblins. Extra afraid. Okay, so
that seems a little bit funny to me. Like
that you can stack it?
it would be like stack it.
Yeah. Because that's the whole thing with the Earth thing was that you have multiple Earthlings attack that all add the vulnerability, and then you increase the potential damage. So a really clever player that can stack a whole bunch of vulnerability on something can just do a massive amount of damage. All right, so let's start with this. What I'm going to do is copy this, and we're going to attempt to basically build a new ability that's similar to vulnerable to all, but make it specifically for goblins. All right, well, it's going to work. There's that bug again. So something I've done here is triggered this. This has got to do with my changes to the single player stuff. It shouldn't affect the game. All right, let's go to Goblin Champion. Okay, now where will this ability live is the question. I think we can put it inside here. What I think this is going to end up being is a, here we go. Nested status effect. Dream within a dream. Didn't load it. Why didn't it load it? Something about this doesn't load. Why didn't it load? Can't load it for making a custom status effect? That's interesting. Is it possibly because of the label? I'm not sure. Let's paste that data down here and see what it is. Oh, that's weird. It doesn't seem to have anything attached to it. Oh, I didn't copy the full thing. That's fine. Okay, let's start explaining why I'm doing it. Let's go to status effects again. Let's go to vulnerable to all. That's the one I wanted. Yeah, okay, I'm going to do Control A, C. Let's make sure that I'm on this time. There we go. That's what I like. Okay. Units. What's that thing? Yeah, I'm just going to restart this thing because then we got that go away. Okay. This is kind of a cool thing. You can kind of see here. This is our nested encoding. That allows us to quickly encode the entire ability as a string that gets interpreted by the program code. So we basically wrote our own syntax analyzer, and it'll read our script and convert it into game logic. And that's how the game is able to deliver code over the air. Units, Goblin Champion. G-O-G-I-G-O, champion. I remember looking at the art specs of this guy, and the description was the Arnold Schwarzenegger of goblins. That was the description. He does look like that, doesn't he? He's
Just a little tiny one.
little tiny, but he's beefy. Yeah, got a nice cutlass there. All right, so once again, I'm going to go into this, edit, and I'm going to create a new nested status effect. I'm going to go edit, and then this time it should get it pasted within there. There we go. Okay, so that's working now. Good. Save that.
I like to think that you get the vulnerable because of how much pleasure he gets from doing damage to him. Like a giant smile on him.
Oh, yes. Yes. Okay, so goblin. All right, so we changed that to goblin, so now the text is correct until end of next turn. Great. Okay, so I believe we only need to change one thing here. Actually, we need to change a couple.
Was that a clever name?
Clever name is here! Schwarzenegger Goblin. Get to Z... What's this say? Get to the mind?
Minecraft.
Yes. Yes, awesome. Glad to have you here with us today. We are having some fun making some new cards, and then we're going to have a little design discussion, show you some updates to the single player, maybe do some back and forth bantering about some of the design challenges we're working on right now, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And right now we're making the Arnold Schwarzenegger of goblins. Okay, I'm trying to remember what this thing does. I believe that what we want this to say is, all right, make this as a new vulnerable to goblin. Now this is going to be important. I have to type that exactly as it is. So kind of explain what this is here. This is a trait.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Clever name.
What does he say?
It says, good to see you on the stream. Nice to see you on the stream.
Yeah. It's kind of a cool thing. So Peter and I have been trying to find more ways to work together. So he's been coming out to my place here once a week, and we've been just been working together, which has been great. And yeah, and then tomorrow we're going to
got to prep for a convention tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow we're going to the Salt Lake Game Con.
Friday and Saturday.
It's going to be good.
Salt Lake City.
All right, so this part here I'm doing this is the trait editor, and basically what I've done is created a new property. What's cool about this is we can make up things on the fly, and in this case we're making up a new trait called vulnerable to goblin. That's the trait, and it's stored in here. So again, it doesn't have to be used as a global, and we're going to use this to control our ability. All right, so now I'm going to go into here, edit this, add extra. You know what? I better copy this because I'm the Field House Spider. That's a really good. Go back in here. Okay. Edit this ability here. Okay. And okay. So the conditions for this are execute on trigger when damaged. Event target equal to ability user. Event action dot vulnerable damage less than or equal to 0. Now I feel like something needs to tell us that it was a goblin that did the damage, right? So we need to probably add something that says the damager. So here's my cheat sheet again. Damage event, activator is the damager, so we want the person who's damaging you. So trigger subject, event activator is equal, or no, sorry, we should say traits. And we're going to say, we have a type for goblin already, so we have type goblin. Is
Clever name says, so the huge goblin makes other units weak to goblins?
Yes. He created the story behind this, the inspiration of this character is I have a friend that told me about a D&D encounter he had where his paladin was overrun by a mob of goblins and then developed a deathly affliction fear of goblins throughout the rest of his D&D campaign. And I just love that story so much for some reason. I'm like, so you're telling me you're afraid of goblins? Little tiny goblins you can just kick over in the head. And yeah. So the Arnold Schwarzenegger of goblins comes back to relive that fantasy. All right, so we're saying traits goblin greater than or equal to number 1. What did you say back?
It's like that tick that makes people allergic to meat, except huge and with a sword.
Yes. All right, so now we've got a condition for the damager has to be a goblin, and vulnerable damage. Okay, here's what that trait is. So, oh no, traits dynamic vulnerable damage. I think that stays as it is. I'm not sure if we should change. I'm having confusion and remembering how I programmed the vulnerability powers, but I think I'm gonna leave that alone. I think what I want here is, yeah, this one. Add extra damage. Value is the amplitude of vulnerable to goblin. That's what we need to do here. So we're making this power by inheriting from the existing vulnerability mechanics. And I'm hoping that by tweaking these things here, it will just sort of work. We'll find out. Save. Okay, so extra damage on damage. And I think that should work. I think this should be all I need to do.
Did you say that?
I gotta save it again. I need to like put like a warning window when I try to back out. It says like you forgot to save. That's what I like to do. Yeah, especially these nested, because the problem is if you forget to save it one step, it won't warn you, and so you'll just lose it. Okay, so I think that's good. And now the thing is that we need to change this to inflict. So this says inflict vulnerable goblin. Right now this is inflicting damage to all. So we need to change this to apply custom nested 0. There we go. So now that'll use our custom goblin damage thing. And what should happen is if it's smart, it'll inherit from the subtype and then actually use the proper text on the card. We're gonna find out if it all worked.
Now I like him having a big sword, but like I imagine him with a whip. Where he just like
that would be
so
awesome.
Eventually when we get a whip in the game.
Yes, a whip would be awesome. A whip would be awesome.
That seems a little more scary.
Okay.
Like a 9 cat of vengeance.
Yeah, like yeah, exactly. That would be hilarious. Inflict vulnerable goblin 1 until end of turn. I really wish they would stay on one line. That's too bad. Darn. I could probably fix this. Nah. Yeah, it's just the problem. It's goblins in the long word.
Clever Ned likes it.
The whip.
The whip.
Excellent. Okay. I think we may be ready to test. He needs a cost 2. Let's give him a cost of 2 for now, and we should probably give him some stats. Let's give him some power and life. What kind of power does he have, and what kind of life? I don't imagine that, because he's still a goblin, so I don't imagine him being like super powerful. But I want him to be like at least a little bit.
It looks like he's got armor, possibly too.
Yeah, I'd say armor. He should definitely have some armor. I had debated whether you should have like a shield or something too to help prolong his life. Well, we don't want to make one. We don't want to do 1/1. Not sure we can. Maybe let's start with like 3 maybe. And I'm not sure how much life he has.
Yes, the Goblin Taskmaster.
3, 5. I don't know. I'm just picking up numbers, just going off of gut feel here. Then let's give him some armor, like you suggested. How much armor do you have? 2?
Yeah, 2.
2 armor. Okay. There we go. Actually, let's see. Hey, there we go. That makes it look a little better. Inflict armor, vulnerable goblin 1 until end next turn. Okay, cool. Okay, that seems pretty darn good for a cost of 2. I mean, we basically compare him to the Earth Elemental. Now, I think that the inflict vulnerable goblin should be higher. This should be. Let's make that at least 2. There we go. Okay, so now he's kind of like the Earth Elemental. That's kind of our comparative unit here. Is let's see what Earth Elemental stats were. So an Earth Elemental also costs 2. He has 3 damage, so they're comparable there. He inflicts vulnerable 1, but it's to everything, so that's a bit more useful. No armor, but a lot more health. I'd say they're pretty comparable. Yeah. Okay, let's go test our little goblin guy and see what he does. Okay, so test, and we've got I want goblin. Oh, I'll leave the Cyclops in
Clever Man. I would have him deal less damage, range 2, and inflict vulnerable goblin. That would be cool to have the range, or like a what's this, sprint attack.
Oh yeah, like he throws something at you.
Yeah.
Like he throws like a sprint shot.
Yeah, so he can whip people from a distance.
That might not be a bad call. Yeah, that's a good call. Let's keep that idea on the back burner.
When he's got the whip.
When he's got the whip,
update him.
But maybe we could do we could still give him the same functional ability by giving him a javelin or something to throw.
Yeah.
That's not a bad call. I like that call. Yeah, that definitely makes him a lot more distinctive.
Yeah, then you can have other goblins all the way around the other person.
Oh yeah. That makes it more conductive with his ability. I agree. Yeah. All right. So let's go Goblin Champion. All right, and then let's start this. Okay. So I guess I forgot. Probably need some of our goblins in our team to test this out with. So let's throw in some goblin warriors. Let's make them allied goblin warriors. Okay. So now there we go. Okay. So here we go. So
Now he's almost more the Napoleon of goblins.
All right. Well, here's an interesting thing. It worked. It looks like it deflected. It didn't use the VFX. It should have had like a little like stun VFX to him. Also, why did it inflict 4? It multiplied it, so something's definitely off. It says
So it's applying it before he attacks.
okay. So yeah, vulnerable to Goblin 4 until the next turn. So somewhere in there where we have a multiplier, we're gonna have to go and look at why that's happening. But let's see if it works. Okay, good. Let's make sure it only works for goblins though. Cool.
And then when he attacks, it will combo himself. Whatever the name is.
Oh, sorry. What's the one you asking?
Oh,
Yeah, just
also he combos with himself.
Oh yeah, he does. Yeah. So if you had 2 of them, then you could use the ability. The thing
he'll
is,
get 4 the next,
yeah, if you were to use like an ability that let him attack again, he would combo with himself. But you either need to have 2 Goblin champions or an ability that lets him attack a second time because he won't get the vulnerability bonus. The vulnerability happens on the next damage, not the current damage. So in this case, let's undo it. Okay, so he's got no damage and he should have no affliction. No affliction. So let's just make sure 1 damage. Okay, so making sure that the undo system is working. Okay, so yeah, for some reason it didn't show the VFX and it gave him vulnerable to 4 instead. But we are verifying that it's not doing extra damage here, but the goblin is doing. That's really good.
So then he's actually only vulnerable to 4 goblins. Not sure what that means.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by he's only vulnerable to 4 goblins. Are you saying because there's only 4 adjacent tiles? Because you technically have options with there's goblin archers. You've got the spearmen that can attack diagonally, and then of course you got the regular goblin that the orc chieftain summons that goblin assassin. And the goblin assassin too. There's a lot of goblins in the game. Goblin woodcutters, goblin. There's a goblin witch I have yet to implement. This was one of the characters I had for the single player. One of the themes I was going to have like this little mini boss.
I like that.
Yeah, the little witch.
Is that where that staff comes from originally?
No, the staff actually came from the orc shaman.
Oh, okay.
But I decided I made it into an equipment, so I gave the shaman a different.
Okay, so sorry, I was trying to be clever about the status effect not behaving.
Oh, gotcha.
Yes, high
Yeah.
latency puns are.
That's Clever Names thing. There's that bug again. So something I did with apparently creating the unit view in here is causing an error with my editor, but it didn't seem to be affecting our work. So we continue on. All right, so let's go look at the goblin champion and see if we can figure out why it's multiplying it. So 2. All right, so somewhere in here there's got to be a value that's being set. That's very interesting. How did it get set to?
I'm applying it twice. Was it applying it twice?
I don't know. I'm not sure why it came up as. The weird thing was in here it says vulnerable too, so something else is multiplying it. I don't know what else would be multiplying because it was wanting to apply the status effect that it, unless maybe the status effect's being applied twice. I'm not sure.
Right.
Yeah, okay, so this is nested number 1. Something is adding an additional value to it, which I'm not certain what that could be. Maybe it's in here. Let's look in here and see if we can have it here. Okay. Yeah, this is definitely intriguing as to what would be happening here. Add to trait extra damage by target trait. And it was actually doing 4 damage because the amplitude came up as 4, which is strange. I'm very perplexed as to why it did that. And then this makes sense. I see the problem. The problem is that these VFX are attempting to apply custom VFX, but it's actually reapplying the goblin's vulnerability. So that's what's happening. So remember how our VFX weren't working? What it actually was doing was trying to apply the thing twice. So that's what's curious about that is okay. I think I understand what we do. All right, let's go. Let's back out of him. So I had VFX stored in. I must have had VFX stored inside the vulnerable all. So we'll fix 2 birds with 1 stone here. Yeah, that's what the problem is. See this guy here? He was hanging out. We didn't copy him over. Surprise, because I thought we copied this whole thing. We should have copied that in. I don't know why we're missing this guy. Let's go. We'll start this guy.
And the VFX was actually just more vulnerability.
Yes, it was. That's exactly what was happening. All right, let's go back to. I know I love him. He's just so great coming in with the puns and the jokes, and just an awesome member of our community. I'm so grateful that he's here with us. All right, Goblin Champion. Okay, no, that's the word. Okay, all right, we'll fix this guy. All right, here we go. So let's go back into here. So we know that we need to add this. There we go. So here's the VFX. So let's save that. And I'm going to change the order. I'm going to move this guy up 1. Save that. But then I'm going to also go in here and change this so that it's using nested 1. There we go.
Yeah, so what does that do, changing the nested?
So nested is a relative marker.
You use the second one.
It's the
list.
index. It's like an array. So 0 is the first index, 1 is the second. So 0, 1 is how it counts. But we already know that the vulnerability ones are using nested. In fact, what were those triggers? I'm trying to remember.
I'm trying to learn this system so that I can eventually be helping make some of the single player.
Huh, you know what's actually strange here? I'm just realizing this now. Where did the rest of his powers go? I don't know where they went. It's like I somehow overrode them. Oh, no, they were stored in here. Oh, wait a second. That's the problem. For some reason, I put the VFX in here. Oh, dude. Okay.
So it is inside the VFX vulnerable and in the.
So this is what the problem is. That for some reason, like the nested tiering is incorrect. I have the trigger ability in here, but then the status effect is living in here, and therefore it's confused. Okay. Okay, I see. You know what? Let's just test it. I think this is going to work. I think it's okay. I was trying to figure out where the rest of those VFX were, but I think this is all correct. Let's just test it. I'm confusing myself. It's like Inception, the dream within a dream.
I'm pretty darn confused. So for anybody watching or joining us, we're making the Goblin Champion, giving the vulnerability to goblins, inflicting the fear of goblins.
Alright, so I should have saved this map with some goblins on. Let's make some more goblins. Okay, there's some goblins. Make them on a team. Get out of here. Maybe target this barbarian. You know what we should really be doing? We should target the paladin. Let's give them a paladin. Because then it's more appropriate to like my buddy who's a paladin. Let's see. I think our paladin is a girl. Let's see. What's her name again? Evelyn the paladin. Evelyn paladin. Okay. It just goes with my story. There's a paladin in the story, and so yeah.
This is a dramatization. You guys can hear, but this is creation. Actual events.
Okay, so here we go. Alright, so that worked. It showed the VFX this time. We saw the invulnerability, and it didn't afflict anything now. So there's no fear of goblins.
She had armor though.
But she was afflicted though. I saw the effect. The VFX work. Let's try it again. No. Okay, so we definitely have an issue with that. Something went wrong. Let's go back.
Clever name. Is there not also an orc that summons 1/1 goblins when he attacks?
There is. Dork Slayer. Dork Slayer summons goblins. Here he is. Summon a 1/1 goblin after you attack. Yes. Goblin Champion will be a great combo for his deck. Orcs and goblins. Annoying little mean guys. Alright, let's see. Where's that Goblin Champion? So clearly there's... This mapping is just really weird and confusing.
Yeah, that would be weird to buff him up to a 4. Make him a possible starting unit.
We forgot to save it. See,
oh,
that's what it is. Nested and saved.
Yeah, that little hidden save over there.
Yeah, I know. That was the problem. Okay, so now let's try it again. Now it should be working.
Yeah, clever, and that could be a synergetic unit.
Yeah, one thing I think is cool about this, so a lot of the big issues in collectible card games is this notion of power creep that every time they make new releases of cards, it sort of devalues the existing cards and creates new, better cards, and sort of is like, well, I just spent all this time and money, maybe even buying all these old cards, and now they no longer have value because there's a whole new set of things I have to buy, and it just really, it's not a good feeling, right? Like our whole thing is that we introduce new cards that make all the existing things you already have even more fun and valuable. So it's like if you were already a fan of Dork Slayer and summoning little goblins, the Goblin Champion now makes that even more awesome. So it's like the more cards we add, the better everything becomes, the more fun and creative. It's like your Lego blocks now have like shiny newness to them because they can combine in all kinds of new ways, which is great. All right, so here's the power. Let's get it out there. Let's get some goblins. I like the speed because I just love the sound of speed when it gets you. There we go. Be on my team. Okay. And now, let's go in there. Gotta hit you in the back because there we go. Let's show me the vulnerability. There we go. Vulnerable Goblin 2. And now. There we go. Yeah, that's Goblin Champion. Alright, yeah. That feels pretty good.
I'll make sure that no other units. I guess we already checked.
Oh, yeah, let's double check that. Yeah, because we did change this, so let's make sure. Alright, so she's vulnerable to goblins, but not everything. So if I throw a spear at her, this is the good shit. It's just. Make sure she goes down. Combo! Oh, dear. You know what? You get out of here. Let's do a tree. He's got some more health. No, he's only at 7 health. Let's see what it's got. We'll use him. Okay, so now he's vulnerable to.
Yeah, every update. Summoner State. Now with shiny units.
That's right. Alright. Okay, so yeah, he only took 2 damage. He did not trigger the vulnerability, but poke him from a goblin. Yeah! Goblin Champion! He's in the game! Alright, let's make sure we did tick the box for what's it called, right? The make him functional.
Oh, did we want to change his weapon and?
Oh yeah, that's right. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna give him range. We're gonna give him range. Yeah. I like that. I like that too. Yeah. That's cool. Okay. So armor 2, inflict vulnerable goblin 2 until next turn. All right. So we need to give him. I guess what's called sprint shot is the ability. So let's go sprint shot. Range. Attack 0. That's right. Let's see if that works. Yep. Sprint shot attack. Okay, trying to see if I can pretty this up a little bit with how I arrange those things. Oh no, sprint shot always appears at the end. That's right, so that won't change anything. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Clever name. So now you need to make a goblin mask. Ooh, equipped unit is now a goblin.
Ooh,
I like that.
That's awesome. Okay, so should we give him like I think I have a javelin or a little spear he could throw. Goblin mask. That would be hilarious.
Just axes, head armor.
That's the cool thing too. We could easily make an armor of the mask by just taking the head and putting it in the armor skins file, and then you can make it a mask like that. Actually, I do that with one of the characters. There's that Nasher guy that has a mask. Is it the Nasher? Let's see, yeah, this guy. He's like that bug guy. Oh, that's like the helmet there. Here's the Nasher helmet. Nasher. Here we go. See, he's got the bug helmet.
Oh, awesome.
The bug exoskeleton mask. Now I have to undo all my changes. Let's just do that. Okay. So, once again, we give him sprint shot. What does that thing again? Range, attack. So it gives him sprint shot attack. So now we can just throw things. And see, that makes him a lot more powerful. I feel like we need to reduce his strength down because that's too powerful for that.
Now, is attack throw always pull you back?
No.
Okay.
This one is just attack. The harpoon is the ability that does the pull. So what we'll do is instead of sword, we give him. What's that? I think it's a javelin. Jerry can give him. There we go. Let's change that animation to let's make him do a pokey. Okay, so melee attack. And then for his sword, he should be doing throw animation, and I believe we can test that over here. Let's see.
But there also is like a net. That could be a good stand-in.
Oh, yeah, that's true. There we go, so now I can throw that.
So,
What did Clever say?
yeah, Carter says, do you have a pickaxe you could throw?
A pickaxe. I don't know that we have a pickaxe.
Yeah,
That.
Nice twirl effect on it.
Yeah, we want the twirl too. Yeah, so I don't have a. We want to create a rotating armature that does the spin. Yeah, absolutely, to make it look convincing. All right, I think that works for now. It gives us the throw at least, so he's got the range now, and that makes him pretty damn good. Cool. Well, that was a good suggestion.
Yeah, I
giving
like
him the
that.
range. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
to
agree.
attack.
It definitely helps him with the synergy of his ability. If he gets, now there's more space for other characters to get in there. So let's just test this now. Okay, so I should be able to do both. I can run up and melee, which does the stabbing attack, which should block this help us. Or I can do the throw. Oh, see, her armor blocked it, so she didn't get an affliction. I like how it sticks now. So little changes. I made it stick a little bit longer into her gut. So
Nice, I like it.
okay, so now she. Well, wow, it didn't trigger the. It did not trigger the affliction. So we have more work to do.
So no, it's not triggering it? What the?
No, it's not triggering it. So there's probably a reason for that, and I'm assuming it's because the inflict vulnerability is requiring it to be a
Melee attack.
melee attack. Yeah. So we have to go change that to make it so that it's not dependent upon which type of attack I do. Yeah, definitely an issue there. Okay. No big deal. I can fix that. Yeah, so we have this new notion where we've been able to attach particular abilities to equipment so that when you use equipment, you can modify cards that are where it makes sense to do so. Like our Mantis guy here, he's got that harpoon attack. I'll demonstrate again. You can throw the harpoon and it pulls people in. But we had this thing where it's like, well, if he equips a dagger, it doesn't make sense that he can now throw a dagger and pull you in. So now when you equip weapons, it'll disable powers that are I guess spiritually attached to the equipment. It's not necessarily obvious when you look at the card, but if you think about it, oh, he's throwing a harpoon stick. So what will happen is when you equip something, the game will actually gray out this text, and it'll tell you when you equip it too.
Yes, of course you're helping. Clever name. Part of the hive mind now.
That's right. Okay, so let's go back to Goblin Champion. Okay, so we need to go and look at that ability. I'm assuming it's probably because in this vulnerability I have a constraint that's testing for melee attack. And there it is. Attack type equals melee. Yeah, it looks like I did this because I wanted other characters that were using that ability to be constrained to melee, and I think all I need to do is trying to think if this makes sense. Because I'm thinking about an edge case here where you could use transfer consciousness on the goblin. I don't want to make it where he casts a spell and it does damage. It's supposed to be attack. Oh, no, it is. It's attack complete. Okay, we're fine. Yeah, we can just get rid of that. That's good enough. Okay, cool. Yeah, there's so many cards that add edge cases like transfer consciousness that lets you become a character. So then he could technically cast spells, and I don't want the spells to cause fear of goblins.
All right.
Just the attack. But it's using attack events, so we're safe. Okay. Should make this bigger for folks. Let's make it bigger for folks. Full screen now, baby. Yeah! I should probably, and I keep forgetting my video is up in the corner here, so it's viewable now. Oh yeah, you can see on the screen. Right? Alright, that's the bottom. Alright, so now that makes sense. The armor took the damage, there's no infliction. Now, infliction. Oh, that's interesting. You see these cards appearing in there? That was weird. These are
Like slowly loading.
there's a reason for that. That's probably one of the changes I have is with the spell cards. I think I have a hook in here so that they're not on the Atlas, or the Atlas. It should be on the Atlas, but yeah, they load again. All right, so did that affliction work? Yep. and she's now got vulnerable 2. So now if I attack her again, she'll take 2 plus 4. So now she'll take 2 plus 4.
Excellent.
Cool. That's pretty fun. Yeah, I like that goblin spear throw, man. That's awesome.
The big old knife was cool, but
Yeah, I do like the idea of the whip. So the whip would basically be like a. That's going to be interesting to figure out how we're going to do the whip, because it would need to be like, for our sprint shot rules, it's always going to have a range of up to 3, but the range of it's variable. So how are we going to get it so that it can be a variable range of whippingness? I suppose it would have to be like almost like a projectile animation, where you would have to maybe like the lightning bolt works, where it draws.
it's pretty instantly.
Yeah, so you'd
Right
have
to
the
end point.
effect of the arm doing the throw, but then you'd have like some kind of a whip like line we would draw, but we would draw it, or maybe even just like stretch it, like take a graphic and
Yeah.
stretch it dynamically. And if it had little like toggles or leather straps at the end of it or like that, those could be almost like they could kind of
animate that.
yeah, like that could just sort of move forward, but then in between the projectile we'd have a line. It'd be kind of cool, because eventually it'd be nice to add like a little like rope to this harpoon as well, some kind of a challenge.
Pull it back. Whatever the name says, maybe something like how
Chain lightning work, yeah, exactly.
Stretch it out and then back again really quickly.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're totally. Yeah, cool. Well, he's gonna be a fun character. I'm excited about this guy. He'll be great in the orc deck, man. Him with this guy's like a natural companion for Dorkslayer. Summons the goblins and then they just all get ludicrous attacks. And you can also combo him with the orc battle horn, so his power goes up. And there's so many good combos for that guy. Yeah, that's a great card.
We want to make sure that whip, where it's all stretched out, would be one frame, and then I could do kind of like a whoosh, like the whip coming back.
Yeah.
Make sure that it doesn't look like it's a rod.
Yes, yeah, like a rod. Yeah, good call. Yeah, that's cool. I know whips have always been a weapon that a lot of players have requested, and I think the main reason to avoid them is just because of the challenge.
I know, they're hard
challenging
to
with animating them. They're hard to make. Yeah, but man, if we get that right,
we can do it.
yeah, because we could totally. If you could make a really cool rope animation, you could totally use it for the harpoon as well. Like like a loose and a taut rope next to it. Yeah, I wonder if that would work. I wonder if it would just be as simple as like creating a mesh armature of the rope.
Yeah.
But then we can kind of just like
Like a
scale
loose
it. We just sort of scale it. So if it only has to stretch like 1 to 3 spaces, you make it like you program it for 2 spaces, and then it either gets a little bit shorter or a little bit longer. You know what I mean? So that when we scale it, we can just like almost like we just
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, and making sure that it can't go all the way across the board will help.
right.
So it's
Yeah, it'll be
A
limited
limited range.
in distance.
Count on.
True.
Excellent.
Yeah,
You
cool.
wanna do another card?
Yeah, I think we got time for one more. We should do maybe do one more. Maybe do this gravity trap, and then we'll switch gears and talk about
Anybody have
Superplay.
a preference?
Yeah, so we had 5 picked. We got 3 of them built. This is actually going really well. Gravity trap, or we want to do tactician. Tactician is like kind of a more advanced card. It's used to reactivate battle stances, which is great if you're trying to create combos with characters. And then the other one, gravity trap. Originally, this card was intended to pull characters, the entire enemy team, into the character walking the trap. But in practice, we found that did not work effectively. So I've got a new idea for that, where instead, it would be like you would still place it on the floor, but what it does is when the enemy tries to move, the next enemy the enemy commands, they will get sucked into the trap.
I think that's great.
I kind of like that too. That's
So strategic.
I don't know. What do you think, Clever? Do you want to see gravity trap or the tactician? Gravity trap or tactician? What's going to be next? And then we'll push our DLC, and then we'll show you guys the single player stuff. This is just awesome.
Probably my vote is gravity trap.
My vote's gravity trap too. I'm feeling that. I'm feeling just because now I'm excited.
Clever name, you're already outvoted, no matter what you vote.
Yep. Gravity trap sounds interesting. Okay, that's right. Get on board. Get in line. All right. Well, here.
Just kidding. We would have done.
I know. We're pretty that fun. All right. Let's see. So let's go to our episode 20 test, and let's throw in the let's throw in the spell for. Let's show you the existing gravity trap, and I'll kind of explain a little bit why
I'm
that.
interested to see why it doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean it works. It just it's. I don't
fun.
think it's a good design for a number of reasons.
Oh, he was trapped.
Let's see. Okay, so here's what the current gravity trap does. So you place the trap, and if they walk on it, it says, "All right, now pull everybody toward it." Boom. Oh, it doesn't actually work. It was working at one point, but I'll just sort of talk to why it was ineffective. It's because number one, the fact that you can use it as your own, you can walk on your own traps, meant that you could pull your own team toward it,
Which is kind of cool.
which is kind of cool, but it's wasn't the necessary intent of it. The other issue with it is that in many ways it made the trap ineffective, because the idea is that you want to pull things typically away from you. And if the enemy is advancing toward you or toward a space, it was actually
Giving
helping
them a
their team.
benefit, totally.
Yeah, that was the main reason. It pulled the entire enemy team into contact with you. So actually,
Yeah, you want to place it toward the back of the thing.
Yeah.
As soon as they're trying to move.
it was a bad design. Oh yeah, so there must have been something broken with that card, because it's clearly yelling at me, which is not surprising because I don't think I ever reprogrammed it since we did a data update. So anyway, let's go and take a look at that spell, and we'll see if we can get it working in a new fashion. This will be a little bit harder to make, this spell. So gravity trap. Okay, so let's first start off with renaming this to gravity trap. Let's make it functional. Okay, and then hit save. Okay. Alright, so it does apply visible space, apply gravity status, good. Alright, so we want to change this to is selects the next enemy commanded into the trap as a preemptive. Alright, well that doesn't read very well. So what we need to say is surprise, the next enemy to move. Should say when I move? I'd say move. Gets pulled toward this space.
Clever name. I love the art of the nondescript dudes being sucked in.
Yes. Pull the next into this space. I want to make that fit on one line. I'll make them with a better verbiage. Pull the next enemy who moves into the space. That needs to fit on 2 lines. I don't like this extra word. Pull the next enemy.
So that would mean like a healing unit wouldn't get pulled into it when they heal.
No, I think it should be. I think it should be moved. I feel like we could say commanded, and then it would be anybody. But I feel like it should be. I don't know. What's more fun? Should it be when if the caster casts a spell, would they also get pulled into it? Because we could make it anything. It could be commanded. I feel like move is more sensitive to like the gravity taking the traction toward you. Right?
The next enemy who tries to move is pulled into this space.
Okay, I like that.
Oh, not a specific one.
Yep.
Okay. Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, let's try that. Okay, save. And all right, so what we basically need to do now is we've already got the structure of this card set to work with surprises. So it's going to apply the custom status effect gravity trap onto a space. But what we're going to need to change is its triggers. And edit. Pull the teammates of the unit that enters this. Oh, see, we've got to change that too. Actually, it's going to be kind of cool thing we're going to do here. We're going to do this. We're going to do save that, and then I'm going to do what's that keyword I use for this? It's something like subtype. There we go. So now it's reusing the same text, which is nice. Okay, so the next one, there we go. All right. Okay, now all the graphics are set up. It's already set up as a surprise. Here's a trigger. All we should have to do is change this trigger. Okay. So what we currently have is it's an enter position, which I think is appropriate. Yeah, so it's going to trigger when something changes position. I guess we could say exit. Enter or exit would be fine. Well, see, enter position will trigger activate and move the tile. I think we'll say enter position. We'll leave it as this. So they'll take one step forward in a direction that then the trap triggers. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it looks like this was not affecting flying ants for some reason. I'm going to turn that off. Event target equal to ability user. Okay. So let's look at these things. Oh, this is the problem. This is the issue. Okay. The new location is. Yeah, we got to change this whole thing. This whole logic is wrong. Okay. So when something enters the position, the trigger target method is the activator. We want to target the object that changed position. Yes, that is true. So target the person who's moving. But we need to change the condition to be the event activator, the person moving, in this case. And we want to say that they are equal to, no, is it a team? The next enemy. So it should probably be team property. Team. Is not equal to trigger subject. I think in this case it would be the ability source unit. The source unit is the person responsible for creating the trap. Source unit, property, team. So, I'll go over this again just so everyone can follow along with what I just did. What I basically did is I used my cheat sheet here to get the meaning. So we know the event we're talking about here is when somebody enters a position. So when something on the board moves to a new position, we're going to we listen for that event. That event has different meanings attached to the various properties that are stored in these maps here. So activator is the grid object, the unit typically that changed position. So that's the subject of event activator. So we want the activator should be an enemy. So the source unit here is the unit responsible for creating the ability source, and the source is the unit or status effect this trigger ability is attached to. So in this case, since we're building this ability within the trap status effect, the trap status effect is the source unit is the person who created it, and what we're doing here is saying when the person who moved, when their team is not equal to the person who created the trap, then do this thing.
Now enter position. You're going to be casting this onto a specific tile.
Yep.
So it'll exist. This will exist on the tile. The enter position is not talking about entering that tile. Right?
No. If we were doing that, we would be talking about when they enter the location, which is how the trigger was wired before. So this would be.
So this is just any new
location. Yeah. Any new location. Okay. All right. So that looks good. The target of the method, we're going to target the activator. So the person who's the subject of the effect is going to be the person who moved. Or tried to move. All right, and what we're going to do is looks like we have a maximum pull of 10 spaces, and that's using our Bresenham line algorithm, so it'll relative, but that pretty much will cover any size of our maps mostly. It will be subject to whether they are legally able to move, so it's going to attempt to pull them, but if they're blocked, they won't move.
Oh, interesting.
It may, however, I believe it will still disrupt the movement. Assuming that they can be pulled and their position changes, it will disrupt the movement. If they can't be pulled, I think they'll continue their movement. So this will be contingent on the fact that they have to be pullable.
Like if they're right next to a wall, it won't stop them from moving?
If something blocks them from being sucked into the trap, I'm pretty sure they'll continue the regular movement pattern.
Interesting.
The way that the movement event is fired, like every time something changes the space, the movement event's listening for triggers, and it finds one, and that trigger changes your location to something that's off the movement rails, then what will happen is it will cancel the rest of the move. So at the very least, this ability will typically disable somebody from moving to attack you, which is really effective. So it'll be a good spell. It's almost like another type of counter spell. But it can have all kinds of benefits depending upon where you place that trap. Maybe you're trying to lure someone closer to you, like somebody's trying to retreat and it sucks them back toward you. There's all kinds of devious things to do with it.
I'm imagining putting it right on top of a spike wall.
Yes! Oh, a spike wall. Yeah, then you get the extra damage. Totally. Okay, so we're going to pull the target, and right now it looks like it says gravity pull to cast location. So that actually is correct. It's actually, this is correct. The cast location will be where the effect is actually cast from, which will be the tile itself.
Okay, so I think that the description text should probably be changed, pulled toward target location instead, because right now it says pulled into this space, which implies no matter what obstacles are in the way.
Oh, so pull toward, yeah,
pull toward.
yep, okay, yep. All right, and then the last step is remove status effect on source. This basically just disarms the trap after it's triggered. It's a surprise. It's cast.
Clever name. Put it at the end of a long wall of fire.
Yes, there you go. Okay, and then these are all of our little spells. This actually should be good to go. I think that filter targets. I think this can be turned off. I think this is all good. Okay. Yeah. All right. So the enemy who tries to move is pulled toward this space. Should we say target space? Or toward target space? Let's see. There we go. Good. So into the lines. Okay. Cool. Next enemy who tries to move is pulled toward target space. I love it. Okay. I'm trying to think if there's any other considerations here we need to fix with this, but I think it's good to go. Cost of 1 is pretty darn cheap, but I think that's a fair cost.
Yeah, it only affects 1.
It only affects 1. Yeah, a Cover of Shadows is far more potent than that's 2, so that's much more defensive spell. This one's pretty versatile in how it works. All right, let's try it out. First, we're gonna put on the spike trap.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go for Stroll today, says the Paladin. Oh no! What's happening to me? Ah! Yes! Awesome! Why?
So now put it on this one with the tree ant, see if that stops
Oh, hang on, there's an issue. We have a bug. I tried to undo it and it spewed badness. That's not good. This is a bad problem. We don't want to have undos causing breakage. This happened before when we tried to undo the spell. I'm trying to figure out why that was happening. Let me see if I undo this spell, if that has the same effect as... Maybe there's a... It could be the client. It may not necessarily be a bug at the game. We'll have to test it in the game. Yes, there's a bug here too. It's very possible that this is not an actual game issue, because keep in mind that as I develop the game, I'm also upgrading the client version, so the editor is running a newer version of the client than the current game is. So it's possible this is a bug I introduced in the new client, but not in the game, which is going to be fun for me. I'll have to fix this, but what we'll need to do is test this in the actual game. So before we push this update, we'll test all the new cards in the actual game, and then make sure they work there without errors. Yeah.
Clever name. Amazing.
It's pretty... Oh, yes. Thank you. All right. So, sorry, what, you want to try it on the tree?
Yeah, let's see if it gets blocked back.
Oh, yes. Okay, I should say. Oh. So, in this case... Yep, so he stopped over there because this thing blocked, which is correct. That should happen. But let's see if it's possible. What I'm curious about is... I'm just going to restart the game because no it causes an error and try to redo it. If I put this...
Somebody triggered.
Yeah, I want to see if I can put here. Well, it normally wouldn't trigger a combo because combos can only happen on turn. They'll be moving on another turn. So it won't help that. But I want to see if remember I talked about if the movement path is inherently blocked in general, if it'll continue this path. So let's do this and see if the tree can continue moving normally. So here it's going to try to pull him, but it won't be able to. Yep. Okay, so he was able to continue his movement. That's expected. The movement path will only derail and stop his movement if he's actually moved off the rails. In this case, because this space was blocked, it didn't actually prevent his movement it didn't actually change his location because the effect wasn't able to push him any further than the blocks. So he was able to continue his regular move path.
Now, if that was a spike block that also would block his path,
yeah, let's try the spike block. But he will take damage.
damage.
Oh yeah, he'll take damage.
He'll take damage and still move?
Yes, correct. Because it's not immobilizing him. So here it's going to pull him into the spikes. Ouch! Did he take damage? He did not. Why did he take damage from the spikes? That's interesting. Okay, so there's definitely something there he should have taken damage from the spike block. Let me make sure that spike block's working. It's possible there's a bug with the spike block. No, he took damage that time.
Clever name says, what if you have a phony stone goblin in the way? Oh, where the guy wants to go, like the bramble.
Oh yeah, the collision damage. Yeah, let's throw one of those down. We can make one of those Bramble Elemental.
Yeah. Forgot the card name, but deals collision damage. Yeah,
There he is.
Bramble Elemental.
Yeah, so Bramble Elemental deals collision damage when you knock into them. So let's test a few different cases. So first of all, I need somebody that's not going to kill him. You know what? I need to get a bigger unit from the tree. Let's summon Dork Slayer's got a lot of health. Let's summon him instead. Let's start this over. Dork Slayer. Yeah, I was concerned he should have taken damage from the knockback into the thing. He should have still gotten that, which is weird.
And in my mind, it would stop all movement because of that.
Because
he's almost being like held against the wall or something.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I feel like that's okay because it's not. It pulled him. He got knocked in the wall, but it didn't necessarily disrupt him because he stayed where he was. So the wall almost kind of braced him.
So you could still walk away from the gravity trap.
All right. So let's put it here. And all right. So I remember he didn't take damage last time. Yeah, he didn't take damage from that tree. So we'll have to figure out why that didn't happen. Let's try it with I'm cautious to undo because of that time. But
yeah. But since the elemental is not terrain, but still wants people to crash into it. Yes, this would be very interesting.
yeah, he did take damage.
And that's a friendly unit, right? To him.
You know what's weird? I'm not hearing sound anymore. Are you hearing sound?
Are you hearing sound
for the game?
Clipper name?
That's weird. How am I not hearing sound? Huh. It's on my internal thing too. Yep. No sound?
No sound.
Yeah, it's weird. You know what? It's this sound flower. It's such a. I really wish that the Mac OS had a better way to export sound through audio channels that wasn't having to use Soundflower. I mean, that's just such. Of all the updates they could do with the system, that's the one update I would actually care about that would make a major difference in the ease of use of the Mac for any kind of visual audio work. Having to use a third-party plugin that gets broken every time they update the system is terrible. Terrible, terrible. All right. Okay, so that was interesting. He did take damage when it... Yeah, but why didn't he take damage along the journey? He just should have... Oh, maybe it's because in this particular case... He's not being... In this particular case, I think the trigger for the spike is that they have to be pulled onto that space. Maybe. Let's try another case here. You know what? Let's make a whole bunch of these Bramble guys and see what happens when we make a whole bunch. Let's start this over. Let's go to terrain. Let's get units. Let's make a pile of Bramble guys. What's it? B for Bramble? Bramble elements over there. Okay, there's a bunch of Bramble guys.
The program name says, what if you do the trap, then the Bramble, and then Dork? The Orc Slayer, where the Orc Slayer is trying to be pulled through the Brambles.
We'll try this first. He's going to move here. He's going to be pulled into the Brambles. So that caused him no damage. See, that's a problem. That should have caused damage.
Yeah.
So why didn't that work is the question.
Because he's not... Yeah, he's not being hit back. He's not entering the space.
Gravity on enter position resolves. Neutrals, gravity on enter position resolve. Move fizzles because one or more of its effects can no longer be used. So see there, the move event fizzled, which is correct. Because it would have pulled him toward a space that would have... Actually, I'm not sure why the move fizzled there. That's one too.
So these are linked. Him not being hit by the Bramble that time.
Cast gravity trap resolves. Okay, so he moves. Gravity and enter position triggers. Okay. Uses gravity and enter position on the Dork Slayer. Gravity and enter position resolves. Neutral's gravity on enter position resolve. Neutral 3-7. I'm assuming neutral 3-7 is the Bramble. Let me see the grid. Yeah, 3-7 was. What's 3-7? Oh. Yeah, that's this guy. All right, you know what we need to do? We need to go look at this collision power and see how that triggers. That might give us a clue as to why it didn't cause any damage when it was in this space. Because it was when you entered the space. Let's take a look at that. Maybe we can fix those abilities. So it would be under status effects, and then I believe it's called collide, deal X damage. So damage on collide. Here we go. So this event triggers when you enter a position, and the subtype is gravity. Okay, let's see.
Because you still get damage if you're standing next to a wall and you get knocked back.
Yeah, and that's why I'm confused about it, because it's almost like why it should have still triggered a enter position effect on that tile because it was pulling you, so and you would have entered that tile since you got stuck there. But for some reason it didn't. It could be the client event system is not firing events for like when gravity gets blocked. That seems interesting to me. You know what? Let's do another test. Let's try it with something else. Let's try it with gravity well. Let's go back to our episode 20 test, and let's add in, let's give it a time trap, let's do gravity well. So gravity well is more like an instant spell version of the same thing. Gravity well. Anyway, let's see what happens with this one, because now I'm kind of concerned that there's an issue with the event triggers for gravity in general that's causing problems. So let's put terrain. That's fine. That's okay. Okay, so that's fine. Okay. Pull in here. That worked. Cool. So that worked, which is strange to me. That would work.
You can't put gravity well on top of a ball.
You can, yeah. And that's ultimate damage too. Here, let's come back over there and see it again. So I do gravity well here and go, yeah. So that works. So the question is, why didn't gravity trap work? Which effectively should be doing the same thing, right? If we put gravity trap over here and then go here, it should be pulling you and you should be getting hurt by the spikes. But you didn't get hurt by the spikes. So why is that different than this? That's what's strange to me.
Yeah.
Something about the way that gravity pull is working is different than that one. It's possible it's maybe the magnitude of the gravity is causing the problem. Like, is it the gravity well is not as strong as the other one? This is only giving you 3. But I would think if it's pulling you in the general direction, it should still do it. Let's look at those 2 spells and see if we can figure out what's different about them.
Clever, and he even makes the oof animation like gets hit by the spikes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's look at gravity well. So this just says gravity pull to primary location. Okay, so gravity pull. Okay, yeah, so it's pulling in location. So we could change the amplitude. Gravity trap. Is it the other one we have? Gravity trap. Okay, so let's see if this guy does again. He is going to gravity pull to cast location to 10 on target. So the only thing I can see that's different is that the number is different.
Well, and the stopping movement. That there's movement involved on the character.
Yes, there is movement involved in the player, but that could potentially that potentially the movement itself is
canceling it.
Is canceling itself. Is
Yeah.
canceling it. That move event's canceling it. Yeah, like almost like the type of event change is different because of that. Yeah. It also could be because it's a trigger ability. Let's see if that has something to do with it. What did that say? If I can for collide. Collide deal damage. So this one again is looking at event subtype is gravity when you enter position. That's weird. Subtype should be event after it collides into the user. This is interesting.
So why would it trigger the animation for him being hit?
So the because gravity always triggers the damage in the reverse direction of the push or pull.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, but he's not showing the damage of hitting the spikes.
No, he's not getting hit by the spikes. He's showing the pull damage. The damage effect is basically showing that he's being jerked around, but not actually impacted by the spikes. So you're right. There's something that's canceling out. There's something that makes it different for the movement, which is interesting. I have some ideas. Maybe we could either do it where it's let's try an experiment. Let's see what happens if we change it to a different trigger event and see if we get to work that way. So let's change it from enter position to exit position. So this time he won't take any steps forward. Let's see what happens now. Let's see what happens.
That seems a lot easier to plan for me, like as the caster.
Because you don't know which direction they're going. Yeah, you can. Yeah, that does seem easier to plan. Okay, let's see if this has the effect or not. Terrain. Okay, so let's put. Trying to remember how we just put spiky blocks there, and then let's put the. Whoops. We already will here. Oh, it's still did it wrong. And still no damage. Interesting. Did I not save it? Let's go back and make sure I saved it. Yeah, because that should have triggered on the exit, not the enter space. Enter position. No, I did change to exit position. Interesting. Okay, but it's not triggering immediately. If I change to that, let's see what happens now. So now the execute on trigger will happen immediately. So that should fix it. So make it so you can't move at all. Okay, let's test our first assumption, which is that he should not be able to move. He should just get instantly sucked. Yes. Okay, good. What the?
Whoa! Oh! He was trying to move from the target.
That was weird.
Move location.
Let's try that again. That was strange. Yeah, that was very weird. Okay, so here. So it stopped him before he moved. He tried to move, and now it.
See if that.
Those two. That could maybe explain why there's an issue there. Yeah, that was weird. Okay, interesting. But
yes.
Why didn't he get pulled is the question. That is very weird. Yeah, interesting. I don't know if I ever tried to disrupt the movement this way before. So this is new behavior now we're seeing. Wow, we're so close. But this one little thing is going to put us down here. Gravity pull to cast location on target. Oh, that's weird. That's weird. It didn't have any effect on him. Why didn't it pull him? Because the target is the character, not the space, not the unit. The unit that changed position. It should have pulled the character. So why did it put the VFX on that next tile and not do anything? That's very weird. Most confusing. Yeah, it's weird. Just for fun, maybe what I'll try doing is let's make them immobilized. Just not necessarily keep that, but let's see if we make them immobilized, which would also kill the movement, will that fix the problem? Let's just see if that does the trick. Because then we can come up with some ideas and we have to work around it, or at least get a better sense of what could be causing it. Triple save. Okay, so now let's try and see what happens. Gravity. Nope.
And he still moved.
He still moved. He still moved. Yeah, because
that's all messed up.
Okay, I got another way. It's the trigger. That's the issue. we gotta change it so that it's the trigger. Because the problem right now is it's the event is on grid change. We want to make it when they're ordered to move. If we change that, I think it'll work. Because then it's not conflicting with the move event. And it goes more with our try to move thing, like you said. So let's change it to that, the event type, gravity trap. Because the issue here is that when he goes to exit the space, he's already exited the space, which means he's already got his new coordinates. So that makes sense, right? That works the way it is. So what we actually want to do here, let's get rid of this immobilize, we don't need that. But the problem is that we want it to be not exit position. We don't need, do we need this one? Execute on trigger? I'm trying to think, do we want it to be interrupted? No, we want it to be preemptive. That's the event. So this is going to occur as a reaction to a cast event. And what we want to have happen is the activator is the caster, that's true. What we want to do is say that the event trigger subject, event action, okay, and we want to have the event actions property, the action context type is equal to move, trigger subject, action context move. So there we go. So when they attempt to move, we're going to do this, and let's see if that fixes it. This could cause even more problems because now I'm not sure what's going to happen if the move will still be valid or what's going to happen. We'll find out. Okay. Okay, so there we go. Triggered correctly before we moved, and they pulled them. Okay, good.
That looked good.
That did look good. All right.
And personally, I like the idea of if they're moving along a wall, that if they get any movement is going to stop them from continuing their path.
So let's try this and see what happens. Oops. Didn't take damage, and we still kept moving. So it didn't fix our problem. Ah, that's frustrating. Why didn't it fix the problem? Why didn't it should have triggered? That should have triggered his move. That's so weird. I don't understand what. But the weird thing is that Gravity Well works just fine doing that. So why does that trigger it, but the other one didn't? That to me is really frustrating and strange. Because they have the same effect. So something is clearly different about that. In this case, we clearly did it before the move ever takes place. Yeah, I'm very intrigued by that. Now, maybe it's because it's not. There's that button again, so I can't. It's definitely something I changed with the code there. Does Clever Name have any ideas? Any ideas there, buddy?
What you got?
Ugh. Dang it. We may have to just put this one on hold because I can't ship it with that not triggering the spikes. That's frustrating.
Yeah, was ending at 12.
Oh yeah, we were going to end at 12, so do we want to extend it a little longer? Go like a few minutes over? I guess we took all our time making cards. All right, maybe we should go ahead and
talk about single player, or
yeah, let's get the DLC update out first. So what we're gonna do, we'll fix Gravity Trap next week. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this one off, and let's test our DLC in game, and then we'll go ahead and there's no immediate hard stop, so we can keep going a little longer. All right, so let's change Gravity Trap to non-functional. All right, so we should have 3 new cards in the game, and what we're gonna do here is go into my
yeah, Clever Name. Agreed. There's too many event systems. I can't see anything clearly broken. It'll make sense to you later in the shower or something.
Definitely.
So true.
Okay, so I'm going to copy the DLC, and what I want to do is go into, I'm going to test this DLC in the game, make sure it works. Let's go to applications and go to summaries phase here. So this is just making sure that the game doesn't explode when put this in there. Then we're going to, of course, reinstall it and then test the DLC live as well. Okay, so here we go. Cards, decks. And what are those 2 new decks we made? Let's see, I'm going to make a new deck. I'm going to do something here about looks like that. Oh, I can do this one. Maybe hit this one. Okay, so we had 3 new cards. 2 of them were neutral, right? It was the Goblin Champion, the
Cyclops.
Cyclops, that's right. Cyclops. We didn't have 2 Cyclopses, so let's go search for Cyclops. He should be in here because this is the updated one. Not there. Let's search for Cyclops. He's not in here, so something is wrong. Let's try a Goblin Champion. Oh, I know why it's doing this. It's because it's pulling this from the DLC folder. I can't put this, I gotta put the dex file in the DLC folder. Copy. Let's go back to local store. Here, we go into I can't just get up a folder. What is that? See, this is also frustrating, man, Max. Why can't I just go up a folder? If I click here, why doesn't it work? There it goes. Okay. Summer's Fate, local store, DLC. Let's replace that with this. Okay, now I should have those cards. Okay, let's make sure that I'm here, decks. And I believe one of them was called the Ruggeds. There needs to be somebody that can do arcane magic for the. Oh no, we don't have that. We have over the 3 cards again. It was. We need a gold mage. We need somebody that's got a. We need somebody that's got a gold mage. Let's do this one. It's fine. I'll just change it up around. So we need somebody that can do the mana land. So we need a summer that's gold. Fire mage, perfect. Guardians. Okay, so we should have, it's not a Guardian, but we have the cards, and let's go to,
So Cyclops.
Oh good, Cyclops right there, cool, let's throw him in there. And then we got Goblin Champion. Cool, there he is, good. And then, so it's got good. Okay. Let's just test and make sure that this stuff works good. Let's do Ruggeds. Where is it? Cool. And there's one going to test with this. Make sure it's test something. That's fine. Okay, so Goblin Champion. Test options. Alright, come on over here, dude. Face the wrath of Goblin Champion. And then to be sure we don't get damage from this one, let's go test it. Good to go. Cool. Alright. Okay, what was the other card you need to test? Manalone? Let's pull that up. Manalone. So, yeah, let's get double champion going. Goblins. Okay, good. I guess I should have just done a full deck test. Do that right now. There's a Cyclops good. Okay, good. Okay, let's get rid of just some Cyclops. Cool. Just discard some guys here. Good. Good. Cyclops, we want to test that mana right now. Let's go with this. Test this. There's another one, it's good. Be very cautious, okay, let's go ahead and make sure this guy makes this. Oh, I gotta turn my test mode on again. No, it's the line you guys actually test. There you go. Crap. Down. That worked. And Menelin. Okay, good. Let's make sure it's actually going to be 5 or 3. Oh, this is interesting. Yes, 2 in the same turn. We didn't try that edge case. I believe what's going to happen is you're going to get -3 mana. We hadn't accounted for this edge case.
Oops.
So I believe what will happen is we're going to get
2 turns without mana.
No, I actually think we're gonna lose 3 mana. That's what's gonna happen. Watch.
So it'll take 2 turns.
See, our mana drop down. Yep, we lost 3 mana. Which is appropriate, remember, because all it's doing is nullifying the rule. So if we have 2 mana loans out, we pay the loan twice, which means we can actually dip into a negative mana.
Right. I don't know that the text indicates that it's going to take away mana from you, though. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, so we need to change that text, or how should we pay it? Basically, that's what I think the behavior is correct. The wording is wrong, so we should change the wording maybe.
I guess so. I mean, if you think it's correct, that seems.
Because otherwise, that's way OP. If you use
Yeah,
2
so
mana
just-
surges, then you get no benefit.
OP, but can you really get that much benefit from it?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it just gives you 1 more mana.
Think about a character like the wizard or an archmage. An archmage could cast and just go nuts, go to
Yeah.
town with that.
Or is there a way to make it so you can only play 1 per turn?
It's complicated. Let's leave it. We'll change the wording later. I think the behavior is fine. Okay, so let's exit out of this. All right, now what we're gonna do is do a final. We're gonna actually test the update. So before I
Clever
do that,
game with the mana being taken away from you. That sounds like some proper bureaucromancy.
yes, absolutely. Okay.
What happens if you start your turn with negative
you can start your turn negative mana. That's you have negative mana.
mana? It just takes an extra turn to
It just takes longer to
fill back
replenish it. Yeah, it just takes even more time to replenish it. Absolutely. All right. So what I want to do now is we're going to reinstall the Summoner's Fate apps.
That seems weird to me that if you can't go beyond your max, you shouldn't go beyond your. You shouldn't be able to go negative.
Yeah. I mean, we could change it so that it doesn't apply a second D benefit to it, but I just feel like that would be just really OP to do that.
Yeah, and clever names. Okay, just trying to throw edge cases at you guys as they cross my mind.
That's the only way you could get negative mana, by the way, is 2 of those in a row.
Right.
So, and I feel like I do feel like it goes good with the loan shark aspect of it. That if you make a conscious choice to cast
And
2,
it could say something like until you pay it back.
let's go back to Mandalorian and see if we can fix that real quick. Just the text is all we have to change. Gain 3 mana. I don't want to indicate here what your max per turn is. That's the problem. I don't have a way to reference the actual amount you would pay. That's why I just said don't generate. But gain 3 mana, payback mana on your. Well, we could say.
Something like this
We could
card
say-
uses 3 mana next turn, even if you don't have any.
Instead of saying do not generate mana your next turn, we could change to say generate 3 less mana on your next turn. Or pay back 3 mana to the loan shark on 3 turn. Because then it would be true. For each mana loan you'd be paying 3, which is how you get the negative.
Yeah.
Okay. Gain 3 mana, and then that actually makes nice sense. Let's just change the verbiage. So how should we say this now? Gain 3 mana, pay back 3 mana on your next turn. Does that seem like the right verbiage? Or I could say lose 3
Next
mana.
turn or more.
Well, no,
It
each
could go-
card has its own rule. So if you cast
Okay.
2, that'd be 6, you're paying back. If you cast 2 mana loans, you get 6 mana, you pay back 6.
Yeah. Okay.
So should we say lose 3 mana? Or pay back 3 mana? What's the right way to say that? Gain 3 mana, pay back 3 mana on the next turn.
I think lose mana
That's clearer.
is
Lose 3 mana on the next turn. Okay, cool. Yeah, then let's change this to edit. Let's save it. Okay, edit. Let me just see this in quick here. Alright, so subtract from. Let's make this be. Well, let's test it in the engine again too, just to make sure it's working. Number. Let's see that here. And we'll amp it so that in the effect here.
The clever name says you have 0 mana until you've paid off the proverbial wizard.
I'm trying to remember what the value here is. Amp. And then lose. Good. Now I can correct that. That's good. Good. That's good. 3. So now it matches the card text. Gain 3 mana, lose 3 mana in the next turn. Yes, that's now it's kosher with the what it's doing. Let's make sure it works too. Let's do 2 mana loans. So let's go to episode 20. Give me another mana loan.
That is to say, 0 usable mana. The negative number just tells you how long until you are black or back.
Yeah. All right. So here, gaining 3. Now we're getting gain 3 again, and we're going to 6 mana now. So next turn, we're going to effectively, if we don't spend this mana next turn, we're going to have to give back 6. So we should be at -1. All right, the turn starts. Should be -1. Oh no, it only lost 3. Oh no, because we
Because
also
you gained
gained 3. We
Yeah,
gained
yeah.
3, and then we lost 3. Yeah, so that's correct. Okay, yeah, I forgot about that. Yep, perfect. Cool. All right, so that works. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and get this DLC prep to update then, and we'll do a test to make sure it all works. So
the negative number just tells you how long until you are back.
yeah, I think the negative's fine. This is the only edge case where that would happen too. And I think
Yes, I like that. Now it makes sense. Yeah.
okay, so DLC. All right, so what I just did was I installed a clean version of 32, and it updated to the current DLC, which is version 32.2. That makes sense. It tried to load our previous game, which is invalid because we're using cards that are no longer valid. See, so I actually have a thing in here which our deck should still exist, but if I go to try to pick that deck, it's going to tell me that deck's illegal because those cards are not accessible yet. So if I go to what do we call that deck? It's called Rugged's legal. It's no longer a valid deck, so I can't use it. And let's just verify. So in here, if I go to the collection and look up like Cyclops or something, it should be grayed out. Oh, you can actually see him. He's right there. Cyclops, he's grayed out. Okay, cool. All right, so let's exit this. All right, so then I would go to my. All right, let's begin the DLC update process. Let's see where my shortcuts can sign in this one. Oh, no, here they are. So we're going to go to local, store, decks, go to DLC folder, paste in here. Let's make sure the manifest is correctly reading 32v3, depths version 3, good. Everything else is the same, no change.
I was telling Ross the other day I had a dream that I was playing Summoner's Fate with Ross, and my team was like all these cosplay characters, so you could direct them to like copy an enemy unit's abilities, but they would maintain their health. So it's like a mimic, and then they would take their armor and stuff.
Okay, we put that, and then put the alert up there. Alright, good. And now we just need to change the forum. And what we're going to do here is just modify this and type in the new cards we added. So this will redirect people to tell them what new things were added.
Thanks.
And the order of operations was
weird to dream that.
Nanalone. And we do Cyclops. And Goblin Champion. Okay, cool.
I should say it was a nightmare because I was losing to Ross.
All right, so what will happen is when we launch the game up the second time. So now the DLC has been posted. We're going to verify that the DLC works. I'm going to launch the game. And it's checking for updates. Ah, look at that! Version 32.3. Let's see what the new version gives us in terms of content. There it is. Latest release notes released today. Nanalone, Cyclops, Goblin Champion. Excellent.
Dude, that's crazy.
Okay, log in.
For the name Elven Cosplay Master. Support. Gain the appearance and stats of target unit.
Okay, so now DLC is updating. The game should be ready to go. All right, so one thing that happens here in the background is it's going to recreate the cache. I have to still put some hooks in there so it doesn't have to rebuild the entire card set. So it's not very smart right now, but what will happen is it'll rebuild the cache of all the cards, and that's why it's all blacked out right now, because it's drawing all the cards in the background. And when it's finished, which takes just a few seconds, it will show all the cards again, and then we should have everything working. It should be fast, unless there's a problem. Let's try switching to this and see what comes up. I can see things in the background there. I hope I didn't break it. I'm a little scared that I'll have to roll back because something's not rendering now. Oh, you know what? You just have new cards? No. This is not good. What's weird? Oh, there it goes. Okay, it just took a little while. Okay, cool. Probably good because I'm running like all these different things on there. All right, cool. So now I should have. Now my deck should be legal. So let's go ahead and see if we can select it now. Yeah. Eventually, I'll add like a little progress bar or something. But the ultimate goal is that I'll isolate the changes so that it only has to raster the new cards, and only if there's art changes, by the way, because it's only necessary to redraw the cards if something graphically changes on the texture atlases, so we'll fix that. Okay, so, yep, I'm legal now, and so therefore all those collections should be in there. If I go to collection now, I can see Cyclops is available. And, do I have these sorted in some kind of weird way? I do. Oh, I do. That's why. The Cyclops is sorted by the highest cost. He was previously a cost of 6. Cyclops. Boom. There he is. Available. Oh, yeah. Excellent. Cool. So there we go. 3 new cards added to DLC, live on the spot today with our tools. Very happy about that. Okay. Do you want to take just a little bit of time to show some of the updates to the single player we've been working on? Sure. Yeah. Might as well. Cool. Yeah. All right. So, yeah.
I see. Clever name. Maybe or Goblin making a
making a face is a loading screen.
Face.
Yeah. Some kind of loading screen is necessary for sure. Yeah, it is kind of weird because you don't know why it's black like that. Normally, when I originally designed it, it happened while you were playing the tutorial, so it didn't make a difference. But now that I've seen how long it can take to...
Is that maybe a squirrel or goblin?
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the cool updates for single player. If you guys have been following along with our stories for it, I posted a devlog update. Actually, I'll show you guys just in case you haven't seen this yet. But in your game updates and news, my latest devlog here has got a little bit of talk from our time at DreamHack and some of the things we learned that were really cool. We decided we're going to probably drop our procedural map thing here, which is currently the mechanism through which we were going to service all these levels, and instead create a nice, full, seamless world. Which we're really excited about.
A little more Zelda, a little less Slay the Spire.
Yes.
But I have been playing a game with a procedural map like that, and it is quite fun.
Oh, like this?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. See, everyone's doing that procedural map, but I think it'll be cool to do a mini map thing in there.
Yeah, I like the mini map.
Yeah. Seamless.
Part of what makes the branching nice is that you can clearly see if I go to this room, I can buy cards or
yes. Yeah. There's a store.
Yeah.
But we could do the same thing with the mini map too, because we have a mini map that
And
shows
then
you the
can
grid of rooms.
see what rooms are coming.
You can put the symbols on there, and then you can take the path. The difference between the continuous map with the mini map is that you'll have the ability to backtrack.
Yeah.
Where in a branching path, it only goes one way.
You can only go.
So in this particular, and in fact, I can show you. We actually built this system a while ago, and I've shown this before. But so this is our procedural maps, and these can be structured in various ways. Like I can actually customize it to be static, which is what you currently see in game here. But then these can also generate branching paths that could be anything. These could all symbols
That's crazy.
correspond.
And it's 3 starting places, right?
Yeah, you can change that too. So you can change the number of nodes per tier on each level.
And Clover says he's trying to say orc and goblin, but this thinking squirrel is even better.
Yeah, so here's, I changed to 4, changed to 5. This is all customizable. This algorithm is incredibly easy to write a branching tree, just a tree. Which is cool. Again, I like this, but I also feel like it feels too derivative. It doesn't
Very
feel
derivative.
unique enough. And also, again, communication becomes difficult. There's very limited information you can provide here other than like shop, enemy, big enemy. And that's not very informative of the kind of choices
Right.
that you can backtrack to. Whereas we could do the same thing with the mini map. I wish I had the mini map image up somewhere. I'm not sure where I put that at. But we've got this idea. It would basically be like a mini map that shows a connected series of grids. So each room would be
It's
shown
like
on
if you
there.
think of a Metroid, like
Yeah,
the mini map.
Metroid mini map, exactly. But you do the same thing. You show little symbol radars that would show you what's in the rooms. You'd know where to go to. And then you could, of course, explore and go that way in the same way you're creating a path here. You could say, I'm going to set a course to go here, here, then here. And the cool thing, though, is that because it's not restricted to a progression, you could go back, explore a different path. The difference with our game is, of course, we're going to add in a doomsday clock. That's going to make it where everything in the dungeon gets more aggressive and difficult the more times you go through it. So while you have the ability to choose and go and explore all the paths, your chances of survival decrease dramatically. And so we're going to give you some kind of ultimate objective. So when the world's generated, it'll be some kind of quest like you must defeat the Archlich or something like that. And it'll show you kind of an idea like he's located here, or you'll find a compass that tells you he's here. And then you'll have options of going about getting treasure and equipment to gear yourself up, prepare for the fight, and then go after him. But if you try to get all the gear, you're going to take a risk of being completely wounded down. So you're going to have limited resources. And the tension is about managing your resources, like your cards, your total life, the treasures you go after. It's all going to be about managing that in terms of this final fight. So you'll kind of almost plan out your entire plan of attack, looking at the map as a whole, and then going at it. But yeah, in terms of new functionality, so some of the things we've done to support this, the big thing is that we've got, so in the testing here now, we've got procedural world generation. This is incredibly limited right now, and maybe next week we should just dedicate the entire thing to talking about this and doing some brainstorms with it.
Yeah.
I think that would be a great thing. So we'll have even more features with this next week we can showcase, and then we'll kind of talk more about how we're developing it. Right now, we have a procedural algorithm. What it does is it takes a series of rooms we've created, we populate them into a list, and then it will randomly surface and connect together seamlessly whatever number levels we want. It doesn't have a mini-map yet, and it's entirely linear. So if I were to say 5 levels, it basically takes 5 grids, stitches them together to create a world, and then I can battle through it. So I'll give an example of that. Start procedural. And it's going to just currently use my starting deck, which I built here, which is the one we were testing. Oh, what's that? An ice golem. So this is an example of an encounter we're testing. And this one just spawned an ice golem. These aren't final monster encounters, but it gives you an idea of the rooms themselves can have anything happen within them. Dialogue, dice rolls, combat, discovery of treasures, anything we want to put in there. And the rooms are independently created separate encounters. So encounters can happen in any room, I guess. We haven't yet perfected what the query system, I guess, would be. That's one of the things we're still talking about, is how do you map a particular encounter to a particular room. And then the other big thing is we're trying to figure out how to escalate difficulty. But right now, one of the cool things we did accomplish, so if I kill this guy, I'm just going to kill him. And, oh, he throws me crap. Get in here. Just defend my honor. Okay, so there we go. So we won the battle. This was a big achievement for this last week, was we got this working, which was the dynamic card chooser. So why is this a big deal, and why I'm super excited, and why this took so long to build this? So our game depends upon the idea that any number of cards can be chosen by the player. It's an unknown quantity. Normally when the game is built for a PvP, we know going into the game, I've got 20 cards in my deck, you've got 20 cards in your deck, I can create a texture atlas and prepare that game logic entirely, knowing what's going to be in the game. No new content's introduced. In the current tutorial, where we have you go through and do this process of choosing cards, all those cards are handcrafted and placed. They're not randomized in any kind of way, and so they're also known quantities. The problem with it is that we wanted to make it so that we could inject any amount of new content, and it could be completely randomized, so that it's a different adventure each time. So I can't know as a programmer going into it what's going to be included in the atlas, and I can't possibly atlas 400 cards without exhausting all the system resources. So what we had to do is build a system that would allow us to pull any amount of our content in without having to re-raster the entire game each time. And so what we did was we kind of did a clever trick using the mechanism we already have for the collection, where when the game boots up, it creates a backworker of all the atlases, and I can actually show you that. There's a folder, I have it stored in here. DLC, local store here, asset cache. So inside of here, you can actually see these are atlases of all the individual cards. So like here's the equipment card, it's got the helmet plus the helmets for it. This is the actual game atlas, so that's what's actually rendered right now. It's got all the environment and various things for the editor in there. And then your individual things, so like these are the placeables, and somewhere down here, let's see, units. Here's the spells. The spells are just the icons, so it can pull the image of the icon from an external file and load it on the fly from these pre-cached atlases. And these are, of course, all scaled to whatever resolution you're running the game in, and when you change the resolution, it recreates them at the new texture size. But so you can see there's a Hydra, there's an Angel, there's all the parts that take to animate them. So what's really cool now is that I can pick, let's say, this Ice Giant, and I don't have to change my rendering. If I pay my mana loan now, for example, I go into the next room, and it's going to draw an Ice Golem. And look, there's some skeletons in this room. And there he is. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So how did it do that? Well, if I look at my FPS here and show draw calls, you'll see that instead of being 1, which normally it would be because everything's running on the same atlas, it added some extra calls. We got some particles here, but then it's also having to layer in this new texture. So what we did was we traded out the load time and for a little bit of performance, which seems to be negligible from the tests I've done so far. And now we can drop characters into the game without having to worry about knowing them in advance. So actually it's a pretty huge breakthrough. Another cool example we were using it today was if I were in the editor here and I wanted to drop new characters in, normally I would have had to re-atlas to load those characters in because it wouldn't know where to pull the art from. But now it can pull the art from those cache files, and so I can drop in anything to the game instantly. There's actually a small load time in there, but I sure as heck didn't notice it. I can't. It happens so fast you don't see it. And then what happens from a tech background on the back burner is that every time I add a new thing to the game, it creates a reference to that atlas. And as long as something in the game is referencing that atlas, it will hold on to it in the game and not dispose it. So let me go ahead and clear all these guys here, and I'll show you what that looks like. I can run the debugger that will show, oh, I just erased the skeletons I was fighting. Oh, no! All right, but if I go into, let's see if I can get it to happen. Where's that bug at? There we go. So you can see in here, for example, there's a reference to that Ice Giant. U261 is the ID of that card. It has 3 references. The Ice Giant, and then the unit view that's created within. So that's the small unit view and the large unit view that are previewed on the card. So if I close that down, the card itself, plus the large unit and the small unit in the mini preview. once I cast the card, it'll change the number of references. So this now says ice, just one reference, Ice Giant. If the Ice Giant dies, which he will automatically vanish at the end of combat, let's just kill this guy. He goes away. And I can pick my new card. See how fast that was loading in. It's like negligible.
Yeah.
And now I can go into here and see that card, see there's I forget which one was the ice one, but now they have 0 references. So what happens is once it has 0 references, it clears it from memory, freeing up your device storage to load in more cards, and now we can have basically a content churning engine that will support adding any number of new cards to the game at any time without having to worry about resource management anymore. So while this was a major setback in that
Yeah.
I was all excited. It took a day to get the cards in there, and then it took an entire week and a half to get it so that it would handle the tech part of it with the resource management. And so that was a bit.
Says, that's really neat. Background tech is not exciting to players, but it's so impressive. Got to build a solid foundation.
That's right. Yeah. So part of what Peter and I are trying to do, I made this claim, like I said, after we came up with this design, players are really wanting to play the single player, and we don't want to wait to perfect it to get it out to. We want to have like a MVP of fun that you can start playing now and give us feedback. Like, is this fun at all? And what we're hoping is, obviously this week we're wrapped up at the con, but next week we're going to go ahead and populate some content into the system and then try to do a release, if not end of next week, certainly by the week after, and then we can have you guys start playing the single player. It won't be a backtrackable overworld yet. It'll be a linear dungeon, but it will give you progression, card choices, and the ability to kind of see how the resource management works battle to battle. And so at least we'll get some preliminary feedback on how the experience works. We'll be able to get your feedback and hopefully improve that, and as we work to adding the rest of the features with it. So that's where we are this week. I guess one more thing we can showcase, our encounter test. This is a new thing. So I showed the encounters before, but now we have the ability to test one-off encounters directly within the editor. So let's reset this level here. I mentioned that encounters can spawn in any world. So if I go into here, I can program an encounter like we made this one here. It's got bunnies. For some reason, they have spears. Let's get rid of that. So this encounter spawns 1 bunny exactly. And I could say I want 1 to 5 bunnies and hit save. And now I can go ahead and test, and I can say, I want to test the bunny encounter. Let's make sure it works. And fire up a level, it will test the encounter, and now I can see, hey, there's 1 bunny. Let's test it again and see if we get a different roll. Now we've got 5 bunnies. So this is great because now we have a way to actually test the randomness. You can see the spawning locations different each time. You can see this one just had 1 bunny. This one's got 3 bunnies. And so what's really cool is that now we can actually test the isolate parts of the system. And what's cool is that we have this tagging system, so we'll be able to add tags to bunnies so that when we create our world formula, we can say, I want a world that's full of jungle, that spawns bunnies in the jungle, and whatever weird formula we come up with, and that will generate your world. And so that way we can create all kinds of new experiences just based on how this surface is. And then these can have all kinds of custom things. We demonstrated this one with the ice golem. I added like a little dialogue to show how we could have a dialogue up here that could potentially be like maybe the character's threatening you or has like a little story element.
Yeah.
And so that's what this looks like here. We do test and do a procedural ice golem. This one's got the little dialogue that pops up. What's that? An ice golem attack! You know? And that could be changed to anything. Like if I go in here right now and say, all right, let's have him say something different. I want him to say, ice golem says, hi. And then hit save, go back in there, save this, and test it again, and now you'll see that the dialogue has changed. Ice golem says hi. Isn't that pretty awesome? And you can say, hi, give me your money. Hi, here's a free card. Hi, I would like to join your team, and yes or no. And you can see how this can very quickly develop into a very immersive experience. Still a bit rough on the edges, but we're getting there. And as this comes together, you can see how rapidly we'll be able to develop vast, all-consuming worlds of experience. And so we're very excited. So that's it for this week. Maybe we should do this again next week. Just get together, have another chat. We'll just talk about single player and everything, and it'll be exciting.
But yeah, the ice golem Clover says need some Arnold Mr. Freeze puns.
Yes, absolutely. All right, cool. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. We'll be back again next week, and look forward to having you guys on the stream with us again.
Yep, thanks for having me. See ya.